Mr. Vice President, thank you for having us here today.
Good to see you.
So you had quite an eventful morning over at Union Station, as we saw in that clip. Tell us about how you decided to go over there. You know, a lot of us D.C. residents and former D.C. residents know it well, but it's been the site of a lot of crime in recent years.
Of course.
And you decided to pay a visit. What happened?
Well, so a couple of things. So first of all, I had heard from a couple of friends who used to avoid Union Station because there were vagrants and there were crazy people screaming at kids that they avoided Union Station. But over the past 9 days, since the president did this emergency order, it looks a lot better. It feels a lot safer. So I was talking with Stephen Miller and with Pete Hegseth about this in the Oval Office yesterday. And I was like, you know, we should just go over there and say hello to people. And you've got a lot of National Guardsmen over there, some D.C. cops who have been heckled by some of the protesters. So I thought, what a good show of moral support to have the vice president and some of the senior team at the White House show up. We bought him some burgers, hang out with him a little bit. And actually, the most interesting thing, Laura, was after the cameras left, Pete and Steve and I stayed and, you know, had lunch with these troops and just learned a lot about what they're seeing, about how much the city has changed in just the past 9 days. So crazy statistic, you know, violent crime has dropped in D.C. 35% in 9 days. Robberies in D.C. have dropped 55% in 9 days. And it highlights the fact that this living with lawlessness and disorder, that's fundamentally a question of political will. If you've got the political will to enforce the law, you can make even cities like D.C. safe again. And that's what we're demonstrating. And I hope that the American people take an important lesson from this, because obviously D.C. is a federal city, New York, L.A., these places are not. I hope the American people just recognize that you don't have to live with lawlessness. You don't have to live with third world murder rates. If you just take control of these cities, you can make them safe places to live in.
So your pal Gavin Newsom calls this an abuse of power, that this is just a power grab, and this is all stunt for show, and that you all are going to roll through other cities. You've heard things about, oh, martial law is going to be declared.
Yep.
And to that you say?
Well, first of all, how is it a power grab or how is it a stunt when we've already declined murders by 35% in 9 days? How many people are living and breathing today because Donald Trump had the willpower to say, you know what, we're sick of D.C. being a home to lawlessness. We're going to bring some public order back to the nation's capital. So what I would say to Gavin Newsom or to anybody else in some of these big blue states or big blue cities is you can have law and order. You can have common decency. You can have public spaces that young families can go to again. Think of a story, Laura. A couple of years ago, the last time I was in Union Station, I took my little kids there to get lunch, and they were being screamed at by homeless people, not compassionate to the homeless people to let them just fester when they clearly have mental health problems, not compassionate to young families to not be able to go into one of America's great public spaces without being screamed at by a person clearly suffering.
Why are Democrats doing this?
I don't know.
Why is this a political strategy?
Laura, I have thought about this so often and so many times. I don't know why Democrats seem to love public disorder and chaos almost as a political ideology. And I think that part of what's going on is Democrats have gotten so divorced from the communities that they allegedly serve that they don't realize the gross majority of residents in D.C., they want to walk through Union Station and just have a bite to eat or enjoy the space with their families. They don't realize that so many people have been absolutely terrorized by Democrat crime policies. And so maybe they just don't make the connection between what Gavin Newsom says and the fact that places like D.C. or Los Angeles have some of the highest murder rates in the world.
And the D.C. police are being investigated for potentially manipulating their crime data. I've heard this from other police forces across the country. Great cops, beat cops in places like Chicago have said, oh, some of the crimes are reclassified to make a burglary something that's more of a disturbance, and that kind of stuff happens. But is this a federal issue at this point, if this is a manipulation of data and if it's widespread?
Well, certainly something that's being investigated, and I hope that we'll uncover what's going on. But even aside from any manipulation of data, when you have 911 wait times that are so long, a lot of crime doesn't even get reported. And we heard this all the time. People would say, well, my home's being robbed. I'm not even going to call the police because it's going to be 45 minutes before they show up. And that's not an indictment of the beat cop, by the way. They're so overwhelmed by how much violent crime there is that they're unable to actually bring public safety to these communities. So what we're doing is just changing the balance a little bit. We're putting more good guys on the streets, and we're taking more bad guys off the streets. And we think that's the sort of thing that's going to bring public safety back to D.C. Again, it's already working in a very big way.
Now, on to Ukraine. Your February meeting with Zelensky and the president, that was quite something to behold.
It was good
how did you all break the ice this time? Take us into the room, because we're all dying to know that.
Well, I think when President Zelensky walked into the Oval Office, I was chatting with him, with the president, with some of the senior Ukrainian delegation. I said, Mr. President, so long as you behave, I won't say anything. And he just chuckled a little bit. And it was a good little icebreaker. I mean, what the president's trying to do, meaning our president is trying to do, is bring a 3.5-year, very brutal conflict to a stop. It's killed way too many Ukrainians, way too many Russians. It's completely transformed the economy of Europe and of big parts of Asia. We just got to get back to peace. And I really do think you heard Vladimir Putin say this, that if Donald Trump had been president in 2022, this war would have never started. And now the president is really spending a lot of time, a lot of effort to stop Joe Biden's war, because I think it is Joe Biden's war. Without him being weak and provocative, I don't think that Russia would have invaded Ukraine. And now we have a situation where the president is trying to be strong and bold and trying to bring this thing to a close. Now,
take us into the room when the president said, I'm going to call Putin now. And you got the Western leaders, they've all come to Washington. Now, what was their facial expression at that point? Did they anticipate that this was going to happen? Because it was, 8 hours ahead, Moscow time?
Yeah, it was like 1 a.m. Moscow time, and they had no anticipation. So we're actually in the East Wing of the White House, and the president says, we've had a pretty good meeting. I'm going to go call Vladimir Putin and see what he says about it. And everybody's like, oh, you're going to call him next week? And he's like, no, what time is it in Moscow? Let's call him right now. And I think one of the things I've realized about President Trump's leadership is he cuts through the BS of some of these diplomatic protocols and just says, I'm going to get things done. If I want to talk to somebody, I'm going to talk to somebody. You had a lot of the Europeans who were saying, no, there needs to be proper, vetting, and the teams have to prepare the phone call and blah, 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 blah. And the president was like, no. I want to talk to the guy. I'm going to talk to the guy. And I think that kind of no holds barred, no BS diplomacy is part of the reason why we've made the progress we have. And we've made a lot of progress, Laura. Look, who knows what's going to happen? The president tells me this all the time. You can never say with certainty what the outcome in this situation is going to be. But we now have the Russians talking to the Ukrainians. They're talking details about what would be necessary on each side to stop the fighting and stop the killing. We've made more progress in 3 months than the country had made in 3 years in stopping this conflict. And I think it's because sometimes you just need a president who will pick up the phone and call somebody.
When Vladimir Putin meets with Volodymyr Zelensky, can we assume that all the big details will have been discussed and generally agreed upon, namely the security agreement and land swap?
It's a good question. I think that if you go through the bureaucratic process, then the answer is yes. But I think the president's preference and my preference would be, let's have them meet regardless. You don't have to figure out every issue. And sometimes leaders sitting down face to face can break the logjam that their teams don't necessarily have the ability to do. There really are 2 big questions lingering out there. And in some ways it's very simple, but in some ways it's very complicated. Number one is Ukraine wants to know that it's not going to get invaded again by Russia. It wants to know that it's got territorial integrity long into the future. The Russians want certain pieces of territory, most of which they've occupied, but some of which they haven't. So that is really where the meat of the negotiation is. The Ukrainians want security guarantees. The Russians want a certain amount of territory. Again, we finally got the details. We're working on them, but we haven't figured everything out. And I don't think that we should force, we shouldn't say that they can't sit down until you figured out every little detail. Sometimes them sitting down is what facilitates figuring out those details.
You have been so strong on the idea of Europe paying for Europe's defense.
Sure.
And I think a lot of Americans don't understand that the EU GDP last year was about $19.18 trillion, if I'm right, give or take. And the UK's was about 2.9 trillion. Sure. Ours is 29.8 trillion, right?
You know the numbers better than I do. You should be Treasury Secretary.
Yeah. Sorry, Scott, I got your job. Now, so this is a lot of money. Europe has the money to defend itself. So the security agreement, my question to you is, why should America carry the lion's share of the burden from now until Lord knows when for Europe when Europe has the money to defend itself?
Well, I don't think we should carry the burden here. I think that we should be helpful if it's necessary to stop the war and to stop the killing. But I think that we should expect, and the president certainly expects, Europe to play the leading role here. And what he said very clearly is, look, the United States is open to having the conversation, but we're not going to make commitments until we figure out what's going to be necessary to stop the war in the first place. And I think that it's, the president is very good. He never takes anything off the table. He never puts anything fully on the table because he doesn't want to give away his leverage. And this is the private conversation that we're all going to have about what's necessary to stop the war. But no matter what happens, no matter what form this takes, the Europeans are going to have to take the lion's share of the burden. It's their continent, it's their security, and the president's been very clear they're going to have to step up here.
What's it like meeting Putin? What was he like, just one-on-one?
So I've actually never met Putin. The president did that meeting. I've talked to him on the phone a number of times. It's interesting. He's more soft-spoken than you would necessarily expect. The American media has a particular image of him. He's soft-spoken in a certain way. He's very deliberate. He's very careful. And I think fundamentally, he's a person who looks out for the interests, as he sees it, of Russia. And I think one of the reasons he respects the president of the United States is because he knows the president looks out for the interests of the American people. And while they often disagree about issues, and obviously the president has been very critical of Vladimir Putin, the president's also willing to work with anybody if he thinks it's going to accomplish an important goal for America. And we all agree an important goal is to stop the killing.
Let's move to the economy, because that is still the number one issue in the United States for most voters.
Sure.
The Democrats seem to be banking on an economic downturn, just like they seem to be banking on chaos in the streets against the National Guard.
Sure.
How do you see the economy in the next 6 months as we're seeing some continuing uncertainty regarding interest rates and Jerome Powell?
Well, unfortunately, you have the Democrats. I think they really are betting against the United States. We're betting on the United States and the American people. There are a lot of good things happening in the economy. You have a lot of new investment coming in part because the tariffs. People are trying to avoid the tariffs by building in the United States, which is their whole point, Laura, and why the president has been right about this issue from the beginning. You see blue-collar wages rising at their fastest rate in 50, 60 years. You see inflation cooling off, though there's still a lot of work to do there. So I feel very good about where the economy is. You can never predict the future. But I think what people all over the world recognize is that it's a time to build in the United States of America. If you want to build a car, you want to build a car manufacturing facility, if you want to build a next generation technology facility, if you want to build houses, whatever you want to do, we are the place to do business.
How about rare earths and magnets, which is what we're dependent on with China, which gives them an enormous amount of leverage over us.
And that's something the president has really directed the entire team to fix that issue, because whether it's rare earth magnets or pharmaceuticals, he wants the United States to depend on Americans. We should not be in a situation where foreign adversaries or competitors have control over critical parts of our economy. Think about this, Laura. God forbid Americans are in some sort of conflict and we can't get antibiotics because we're in a conflict against a country that makes the antibiotics. You don't have economic freedom and you don't have real prosperity unless you make your own stuff. That's why the president of the United States is making it so much easier to build things and make things in America.
Now, I know you love talking about politics because you're going to say, well, we can't look forward to 2028. I understand that.
I'm sick of politics.
But Democrats are still doing their 2024 autopsy.
Yes.
Okay. And part of their autopsy is that going forward, they need to kind of be more like Trump in tone, tougher, have nicknames. Newsom's given you a nickname, which I don't even understand, called Just Dance Vance. So I guess, what's your favorite dance? What's your favorite dance music? I mean, it's the dumbest nickname. But how lost are the Democrats right now? And you can answer the dance question.
I mean, look, the autopsy for the Democrats, some free political advice from the president of the United States is stop sounding like crazy people. That really is all it is. I mean, this idea that Gavin Newsom is somehow going to mimic Donald Trump's style, I think that ignores the fundamental genius of President Trump's political success, which is that he's authentic. He just is who he is. You've got to be yourself. You've actually got to talk to people honestly about the issues. I don't think it's that complicated. Don't be a crazy person. Be authentic. If the Democrats did that, they'd do a hell of a lot better. But the thing is, the Democrats really can't help themselves. If you look at the transgender issue, they're still talking about letting men play in women's sports. If you look at the crime issue, they're calling Donald Trump a fascist for taking action that in 9 days has dropped armed robberies by 55%. So part of sounding less crazy is being less crazy. And if the Democrats were less crazy, I think we'd all get along a whole lot better.
I'm not trying to pick on California because I am a member of the California bar, so don't get me here. But look, we've had a situation where they're giving commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens who can't speak English.
Who don't have basic English competency.
And they're killing Americans,
which matters a whole lot, because if you're going to read a road sign, Laura, you might as well, or you need to actually read the language the road sign is written in. And of course, this illegal alien in California killed 3 innocent people because he was reckless, he was dangerous, he shouldn't have been in the country. But now we come to find out he can't even read in the language the road signs are written in. So this is, again, it goes to the Democrats' basic problem, which is just they're just too crazy. Imagine if you had a Democratic Party that was focused on enhancing the prosperity and the safety of American citizens, rather than bringing in millions of low-wage illegal immigrants, giving them the right to vote, and allowing them to effectively make it harder for Americans to live a good life. That's all this is about. They care more about low-wage foreigners than they do about their own people. That is the fundamental craziness at the heart of the Democratic Party. And until they change that, Gavin Newsom can mimic Donald Trump all that he wants to. They're still going to lose unless they get better policies that actually serve the American people.
Given the fact that they're endangering the lives and killing American citizens, as we saw with that horrific crash in Florida.
Literally killing American citizens.
Literally killing Americans. I mean, these are not made up statistics. These just happen. I mean, federal highway funds, that's leverage that the federal government has over the states that refuse to do the basics.
That's exactly
Would you
right.
consider advising that DOT and the administration pull back on federal highway funds for these states?
So I don't want to get ahead of any administration announcements, but we are looking at a whole host of points of leverage we can exercise over California and other states to make sure they comply with the law. Sanctuary cities are killing people because you allow these violent criminals to set up shop in your cities. Obviously, you saw this case with a person who murdered people on the road, 3 people on the road, because he couldn't even read the road signs. We have a lot of points of leverage here, but fundamentally, I think the American people have to stand with us here, because when we go and tell the governor of California or the governor of New York that you have to stop putting the interests of illegal aliens over American citizens, we need the American people to stand with us. And I think that they will. I think that they are. But we're definitely not going to let this slide, Laura. You can't do it. You've got to stop putting the interests of foreigners who don't have the right to be here over the interests of American citizens. That is the entire point and purpose of the Democratic Party. If you go back to the election of 2024, what was the big issue? The big issue was illegal immigration. They were actually defending the rights of illegal immigrants to come into our country, to vote in our elections, to collect Social Security and Medicaid that ought by right go to American citizens, to say nothing of housing. This is actually the biggest driver of housing costs in some of these big blue cities, is that they've flooded the zone with illegal immigrants. As we've kicked illegal aliens out of our country, you actually see housing costs start to level off. So fundamentally, the difference between Republicans and Democrats is we care about American citizens. They actually don't like American citizens and want to replace them with low-wage foreigners. It's a very stark difference. And I think the American people are going to continue to reward us because of it.
All right. When Elon Musk departed, he said it was, dramatic departure. And I know you know him well, you're good friends with him, but he said he's going to start a third party and not send everyone into the stratosphere. But he's since kind of backed off that. And now, according to the Wall Street Journal, he is considering backing you in 2028. I know you don't want to get ahead of the president. He's only 7 months into this. But would that be something you would welcome, certainly his staying in politics and perhaps supporting you down the road?
Yeah, so I saw the story, and as far as I can tell, the story is completely fake. I've never talked with Elon Musk or, frankly, any other donor about 2028. I do think that it would be a huge mistake for Elon to go forward with a third party. And my argument to him is, whether you like it or not, you are now perceived by the far left as on the side of the American right. You believe in law and order. You believe in closed borders. You believe in economic growth and prosperity. You believe in making things in the United States of America. The idea that Elon is ever going to go back to being sort of in the middle, where Democrats and Republicans both like him, that's just not going to happen. He is perceived as being on the American right. And so if he doesn't like things the Republican Party is doing, my advice to Elon would be try to fix the Republican Party. Try to push it in your own way. Disagree with me all you want, disagree with the President of the United States, but don't pretend that you can make a big difference with a third party. I think Elon would make a much bigger difference if he stayed loyal to President Trump's Republican Party. And if he had disagreements, express those disagreements from the inside as opposed to from the outside.
The New York Times just reported that the Democrats are in a voter registration spiral. 2.1 million Americans ditched the Democrat Party between 2020 and 2024. Meanwhile, the GOP is doing pretty well. They're gaining 2.4 million. So is this a moment where we could see the midterm curse reversed and the Republican Party gain some ground?
I think we have a good chance, but take nothing for granted, Laura. You have the Democrats are still trying to register illegal aliens. They still explicitly say that they want illegal aliens to vote in federal elections. We still have, I think, a lot of headwinds from the media. They never tell the truth about what we're doing, about what the president has accomplished for the American people. So don't rest on our laurels. Keep on achieving victories for the American people and keep on trying to win. That's our path to being able to continue to govern this country. I'm not going to bank anything in 2026. We just have to keep working at it.
Who's your best friend in the cabinet?
We have a lot of good friends, right? I mean, the weird thing is you say it's one person, then fundamentally that's an insult to other people. I mean, Marco and I are very close. We were close in the Senate. He's been a great friend of mine. I think he's doing a great job. Pete Hegseth, who I went to Union Station, I think is doing a great job as Secretary of Defense. And really the DC swamp tried to destroy Pete Hegseth unlike anybody in the administration. And that really kind of, whenever I see the worst people in the world trying to tear a guy down, that makes me think he's on our side.
Are you doing push-ups and pull-ups with him and Bobby? Are you?
I have not yet done, and I'm sure they can do more push-ups and pull-ups than I have. But I am, it's funny. I do love this presidential focus on fitness. And Bobby and Pete are obviously leading the way, but I'm going to participate as much as I can.
You're going to Georgia, big, beautiful bill. Can we expect any fireworks down there? What can we say?
Well, I guess it depends on who's going to show up to the rally. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun, talk about the big successes of the big, beautiful bill, the fact that it lowers taxes for the gross majority of Americans, the fact that we're making it easier to build things in America again. So we're going to have a good time, and we're going to talk about all the things the president's doing just to make people's lives better. That's the whole reason we're doing this. We want Americans to be able to live safe, prosperous lives in their own country. We made a lot of progress in 7 months. We're going to make a lot more.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page.
Good morning. This is Morning Sky. I'm your host, Sky. What you just saw was a masterclass in just, I don't know, I want to call it evading, or just, it's like he knows something, but he doesn't want to say it kind of thing. He was very vocal last year, calling people childless cat owners. Well, you know who was a childless cat owner? Ayn Rand. One of the greatest minds of all time, if not the greatest mind of all time. One of the best writers of fiction and philosophy. She was a childless cat lady. Is there something wrong with that, Mr. Vance? I would question you. Salute to you, King Hazy. I see you, sir. Salute to you. I just want to know. I would love to know. That interview, he seems very poised. He seems very relaxed. He seems very knowledgeable about his things. I think that's what makes him so dangerous. It should be James Dangerous Vance instead of JD Vance. He just seems like that side of evil that doesn't know it's evil, but kind of wants to show how powerful he is. It wouldn't surprise me if he runs for president in 2028. It wouldn't surprise me. I would not be surprised. And I think he would probably win in a margin that's even greater than Trump in a lot of ways. But like I said, they're talking about how the National Guard being sent to DC and how crime was down. Well, crime was already down, and they just inched it a few levels over. Salute to Dot Focus. Let me get your banner on the screen. So JD Vance is a very dangerous individual, and he's very interesting. He's very interesting. He says, you know, I'm paraphrasing. I just saw the quote he said, but I'm paraphrasing. He said, I want more babies in America. That's what he said. So what do those babies grow up to be? In their 17, 18, 19 range? There may be a war going on where the United States is going to be involved. He wants more dead sailors, soldiers, airmen, space guardians, and Marines and Coast Guardsmen. That's their whole point. This is not from me. This is from the late great George Carlin. The right wing, you know, really pushes this. You know, they want all the babies in the world. Oh, save the babies. I'm against abortion. I'm against same-sex marriage. They can't have adoptions and stuff like that. It's like, and then, you know, fast forward 17, 18. Okay, now you're going into boot camp. Now you're going to be, you know, you could be sent over to a foreign land and have your face blown off, or have your legs blown off, or your arms blown off, and your eyes, or whatever part of your body part. And just tough break. Sorry, nigga. You know, oh well. You know. Yeah, the user process assessments. Salute to Son to Son. Salute. So that is the impetus behind JD Vance. That's what drives him. That's what starts him. You know, he's animated by the fact that, you know, more people in America are having less children. More people are having, you know, children later in life, in their mid-30s, sometimes early 40s. It's just something that must get under his skin when he thinks about it. Must be something that has to be a problem that he has to face within himself. And he's talking about homeless people. Another thing, they were babies once too. Now it's like, oh yeah, well, of course they have mental health problems, and you know, we have to clean up the streets and everything. Well, what do you clean up the streets? Those were babies. These are babies. These are grown babies that you wanted to have in life. Instead of education, instead of right education, instead of the Dewey educational system, John Dewey, not Melville Dewey. Melville Dewey is the Dewey Decimal System. But John Dewey, he was a philosopher and educator in the, I think, late 19th century and early 20th century. He is the reason behind 99% of the people in this country, I may be exaggerating, maybe 90 to 95%. Percentage of this country has such a terrible track record when it comes to education, because it's not properly administered to the youth. Young people today don't, you know, they just get by. I mean, I can speak for myself. Let me speak for myself. I just got by. I was a C student pretty much my whole life. Just got C, not C, but you know, I get an A in one course and an F in another. And what does that balance out to? Like a D minus, C plus. You know, that was where I always stood. I would get A's and B's in history and English, and then math and science, and you know, chemistry and physics, and I get D's and F's. So I mean, and then they just pass you on. I mean, I graduated, but I barely. I had like a 2.5 GPA. It was really low. Something like that. And all 4 years it was like that. 2.5, 2.6. Top was maybe in 2.7 or 2.8, nowhere near 3.0 or 4. No, not even knocking on door near 4.0. But you know what? Who said it? Somebody said it. I'm gonna look it up right now because I just flew off the top. I'm looking for it right now. Okay, it has been attributed to, but Grant Allen was the one who said, don't let your schooling interfere with your education. That's how I always said it. Bro, same. I smelled high school a lot. I don't know. Oh, you skipped. You must be on the autocorrect. You skipped high school a lot. I never skipped high school. I was like the super, studious kid that didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, I don't get it. I just don't understand. But yeah. So but JD Vance is actually accomplished. He used his GI Bill. I'm in a fight to use my GI Bill because I'm using it 15 years later. Over 15 years later. So they give you 15 years if you're before 2013. 2013, you can use it whenever you want. You can be 78 years old, you can be 90, 97 and still go for your GI Bill. Not the same with post 9/11 GI Bill. It's 15 years. I've exhausted the 15 years. I'm trying to go back. But JD Vance, to his credit, used his GI Bill, made something of himself. He rose above his backwater, hillbilly stance, and propelled himself educationally. Graduating from Ohio, I think it was Ohio University. Let me make sure. Goddamn, I always forget. I'm looking for it now. Yeah, Ohio State University. Then he went to Yale Law School. Then he went into the business sector. I mean, you can't take away his accomplishments, but that's just like any evil person. Anybody that's evil probably is well accomplished. Not because they're in business. Business people are relatively good. For the most part, they're only good business people. If that were not the case, there would be no Fortune 500 companies. And then we get oh my God, Enron, oh my God, WorldCom, oh my God, we're getting a tizzy over that. But you don't look at the other 499 companies, with CEOs and executives and people all the way down to the supply chain that are filling orders. It's the same deal. It's the same deal as that. So with this conversation with Laura Ingraham, who is very attractive, I think she's married. I'm sure she's married. She's got kids. I'm not trying to push up on her, but she asks questions. It's Fox News, so they're going at the Dems. They have to go at the left. When the left and the right are essentially the same party, they just have different colors, red and blue. That's the space that I've noticed it anyway. Let me see if I can find another JD Vance video.
Meanwhile, Vice President.
Hold on. I'm looking for it right now.
Meanwhile, Vice President JD Vance is set to be in Metro Atlanta on Thursday, touting President Trump's big, beautiful bill in Peachtree City. Vance's office has not provided any other details about this visit, including his exact arrival time or the location, but he did say that he's going to discuss the historic tax cuts it delivered for working class American families. Those are his words. It comes as 5 Democratic candidates for Georgia's 2026 governor's race continue criticizing the bill for what they say are cuts to vital social programs. Remember, you can always keep up with Georgia politics along with the 2026 campaign. You can do so by scanning this QR code that you see here on your screen. It's going to take you to the free Atlanta News First app.
Okay, so you got Vance, doing the quote unquote big beautiful bill, which is ugly, puny, ugly, and terrible bill. That's what he's going to be known for. Besides, anything, he's going to be the one that pushes Trump's agendas, and I guess you have to do that in a lot of ways as a vice president. But why couldn't he just say, you know what, this is not a big, beautiful bill. This is terrible. This is horrible. This is not a good thing. This is not why I came in the game. This is not why I came to do this. Son of Sun 90 says, Sky want to be CNN. Well, it's ironic because I used Fox and Forbes. I didn't even use CNN yet. I used CNN in the past, though. But the idea of Vance being a staunch supporter and everything that Trump does is just weird how he just flipped. He flipped like a lot of people. Like they call it the dirtiest game, but I think that's such a cliche. It's like it's a topsy-turvy game. It's like one moment you're on this side, then you shift to the next side. Because JD Vance badmouthed Trump. So many people badmouth Trump, and now they're a part of his cabinet. Yes, Son of Sun 90 has it right. The big horrible bill. Yes, very terrible bill. And it's cutting social programs. That's what you just said. It's gonna. The reporter just said it's cutting social programs. Can we cut regulations and controls and not cut people from their living right now? I mean, sure, I want to get rid of social programs too, but it's in indecent fashion to try to get rid of the programs that help people with their food, with their light bill, with their just trying to get the living, trying to get to that next position. That's what's needed. That is needed dearly to encourage people to get employment, not only get a job but create jobs. That's the thing that gets me. I'm doing trademarks, for upcoming series I have, and I'm like, what the heck? You have to jump through so many hoops. You have to jump through all these different programs just to get a name for yourself, pay for it, keep it. You have to file for it. You have to make sure you keep it up to date every few months or years. I don't know what the hell it is. But, I mean, why is it so difficult? Can't it just be one page, one sheet of paper that says your name, your address, your social security? If you don't have an address, you find a burner phone or something like that and have that be your phone, and you can have, they can locate you under this bridge or in this homeless shelter. They can show you how you can start your own business. You can take a crash course in computing and programming. I mean, there's so many other options to do that. He says, brother. Now, I don't like the brother part. Programs like what? Programs like cybersecurity, like making various programs, hacking, different, just all kinds of different programs. Can it all be so simple, Wu-Tang? Exactly. Can it all be so simple? That's the truth. I do not get food stamps. I don't like the Brother Sky thing. You're trying to get under my skin. It's not happening. I appreciate you, Son of Sun 90. Thank you for your hate. Know what programs are I cutting off? Goddamn damn. Whoa. I don't even know if that was grammatically correct, sir. I don't even know what you're talking about. Know what programs are I cutting off? Goddamn damn. You must be on a headset or something, or autocorrect or something like that. I don't understand what you're saying, Son of Sun 90. What program is Trump cutting off? He's cutting off. He just said in the I don't know if he said specifically, but social programs like Snap and WIC and other things like that, they may be protected for a while, but they're going to most likely be eliminated within a few months. He's on the llama juice. Who's he? Who's on the llama juice? Vance? I'm going to try to find another video. Let me see. This is Mammies are pissed they can't get Reese's and Mountain Dew on EBT anymore. Well, there are mammies that have jobs. I have a story about mammy with a job. I'm gonna put it in the live chat a little bit later. Trump 2028. He's on his way. He's on his way. I swear he's gonna do something to cook up some scheme to revert. I mean, he's got both the House and the Senate. If they pass what used to be before FDR, FDR, you could have as many limits, terms as you wanted. He had 4. He was voted 4 times. He would have lived out 4 administrations if he didn't die in office. Epstein list, I'm on it too. Okay. Rick James, would you smash Brother Scott if he hasn't had any since Obama made you guys popular? He must be talking. He's got to be talking to Rick James, not to me. He definitely addressed it to Rick James, not to me. Nick Fuentes is gonna run. Who is Nick Fuentes? I'm out of the loop for Nick Fuentes. They don't really talk about him much. I don't. Nick Fuentes. Far-right political pundit, activist, and live streamer who promotes white supremacist, misogynist, and anti-Semitic views. No wonder I don't know him. He's trash. He's disgusting. I'm sure he has millions of subscribers. I'm sure he has, multiple people. But he's a white nationalist and a Christian nationalist. That's just disgusting. Sun 90. Trying to derail the show, I see. There is no top or bottom. There's just myself and a female. He's a real ninja. You should put down Schwarzenegger. Star praise Nick. Oh wow. This dude disrespectful. Yeah. He's cool. I don't think he's cool. He's not cool at all. He's not cool at all. In no way, shape, or form. Okay, Union Station. Yep. I'm trying to speed it up.
How long have you guys been working? Hey guys, Eddie. Good to see you all. Come here. So we decided to bring the Secretary of Defense and Steve Miller to bring you guys experts. We appreciate everything that you're doing. So, you guys bust your ass all day, we give you a hamburger. Not a fair trade, but we're grateful for everything you guys do. So, how long have you guys been working here at this area? Has it been the whole 9 days? About 7. It's been about 7. Okay. General, tell me what's going on here. What are you guys seeing? Okay.
Yeah. Hold on. Son of Sun 90, you can ask as many questions as you like. Doesn't mean I'm going to answer them. If I do answer it, it's fine. But if not, you got to live with it. I remembered it, but now I don't remember it. Son of Sun 90 is asking about how did you feel about Cardi B freestyle on Jay-Z beat? I think I heard it once and I didn't hear any more of it. The only songs I like from her are Bodak Yellow and I Like It Like That and Money. Those are the 3 songs I really like from Cardi B. But let's stay focused. Let's stay focused on JD Vance. I hate that one.
Well, a lot's changed in the past 7 days. So you guys are doing a hell of a job. We're proud of you. We're grateful to you. And I just wanted to come by and say thanks and hang out with you. So let's say hello for a bit, and then I think we can talk to this order, but just want to shake some hands and say hey to guys. Appreciate it.
I should know who that is with the brown suit, that grayish brown suit. He's looking at the camera right now. I don't know who that is, but he did the white man handshake. He did that one, he shake the hand and then you put a hand on top of it. that secret, under, like, I know you, like, I am not only am I above you, but I know more than you. I'm trying to comfort you in your distress. Like, it's a weird handshake. It's a strange thing. It's not just the shake itself. It's the hand on top. Like, that's the nation handshake, sir. Only daps and pounds. Exactly. Only daps and pounds. Let's see what else happens.
Regan, how we doing, man? How y'all doing? All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm honored. Yeah, of course. Yeah, come here. We'll take a photo right now. Where are you from? Oh, great. Okay, awesome. We'll make sure you get a copy.
Yeah, we'll get a copy. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Got it.
All right, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Hey guys, how you doing? Good to see you all. How's it going over the hill? Good. Busy summer? Busy summer? Yeah. Super fun? Good. Okay, cool. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for all your help. Yeah, good to see you all. Hey guys, how we doing? Good. Good to see you guys. Thank you. Oh, all right.
Notice how he's like super in politician mode. He's real cordial. He's real approachable. He's giving himself up to be very, presentable. But underneath all that is just a seething, cesspool of hatred and vitriol that he has not been able to expose that much or espouse as much. It's the guy from the meme. What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean, Bumba. Who's the guy from the meme? I'll continue the video.
You see the transformation? He's good. Yeah, I'm still in that. I want my kids here.
The irony, he says, he took his kids there a few years ago or some time ago, and people were screaming at him. Well, if you haven't heard the audio in the background, somebody's yelling something. There's like a group of people, it sounds like a few females, yelling at him, saying something derogatory, I guess, against JD Vance. And it's like, what the hell? I mean, have things changed that much? They're still, yelling. And he had such a very cavalier, very, almost callous viewpoint. These people have mental health. Well, why do these people have mental health? They have, everything going for them, being in the noblest nation of all time. And the reason why they have mental health issues or something like that, or are homeless, maybe because of chemical imbalance, maybe because of some kind of restructuring within a company, and then they maybe had a spouse, unalive themselves. I don't know, but it just seems that he doesn't have the same compassion as he has for other groups. And I'm one of those groups. I'm bipolar, and I was homeless for a time. I had a roof over my head, but I was in a halfway house in at least 2 occasions. And I was living in a psychiatric ward. Got $23,000 for that, tax free. Holla. They hardly ever talk about that. Hardly ever talk about that when they go to the psych ward. It's like, oh, he got $23,000. Oh my God, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, you can get paid by playing, spades and drinking flat ginger ale and stale crackers if you want. And I never touched the puzzles. I didn't do the puzzles. I read some books. I read Julius Caesar and a few other things, but never really did the puzzles. Comedy. Okay, I thought it was okay. Wow. Okay, you never seen a JD Vance meme? No, I haven't. I don't think so. I thought it was a Pep Squad. Okay, comedy. Did you meet Sinbad? Sky flew over the cuckoo's nest. No, I was in the cuckoo's nest. I was buried in the nest. I didn't just fly over the cuckoo's nest. I was in the nut house, the funny farm, the puzzle place. The puzzle factory. Excuse me. The nut house. As many names do we have to call it? I've been there for a few occasions. The longest was 5 months. Then I think a month. Then a few weeks, then a month, then a month, and then a few weeks, then a few days, twice. Looney Bin, that's another one. Yup, Looney Bin. They had Sky done up like Hannibal Lecter. No, it wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad. Let me go back to the video.
Thank you. Specialist, good to see you, man. Thank you. Nice to meet you. So where y'all from? South Carolina. Okay, so pretty much everybody's in South Carolina. Okay, Charleston, Columbia. Okay, good. We appreciate you guys helping us out. Thank you. It means a lot. Specialist, how you doing? Sir, how we doing?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I can't complain. This is a lot more fun like I do most days. All right, appreciate it. Thanks for all your help.
Answering Rot with me's question, was there a boy? There was not a boy. But anyway, I'm gonna have to start. If you want your questions answered, it's gonna be at least $5. $5 for questions. If you want me to answer your question, you gotta send me $5. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. I'm gonna start that right now. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. If you want to know a question, a lot of y'all asking questions. Brought with me is one. Son of the Sun 90s asked me a few questions. Got to send in that donation. And if I'm not mistaken on this video, they'll say money or that was cute. They're saying don't tread on me. I think they're saying don't tread on me. I don't even know if they're supporters or detractors. I'm not even sure. They could just be, singing his praises or deriding him. I'm not sure.
All right. So, what's our name here? Okay.
Whatever you want.
I just want to go. So what's the plan? We do the gaggle, right? Are we doing that up here? We'll do that later. Wherever you want. Okay. All right. Let's follow Peter here. All right. Peter, you lead the way.
Back to where you were.
All right. Okay. All right.
Right here.
Right here? Photo right here? Is that what they said? So you can be up here. You can be up. Your audio can be up. Am I out of your shot? Okay. Camera, can you be up on here? So, we have a few reporters here. So, look, guys, what we want to do here was a couple things. First of all, we're going to come and say thank you to the National Guard's folks, to the cops for actually keeping this place safe. If you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. in just the past 9 days, we've seen a 35% reduction in violent crime. We've seen over a 50% reduction in robberies. We are seeing really substantial effects because these guys are busting their ass. So I want to come here, highlight what they're doing, say thank you in person, obviously pass out a few burgers, but most of all, just send a message to the American people. Look, we don't have to live like this. We do not have to allow our cities to be taken over by violence and by disorder and by chaos. You can actually do stuff. You can actually bring law and order to communities. You just got to have the political willpower to do it. And I think you hear these guys outside here screaming at us. Of course, these are a bunch of crazy protesters. But I'll tell you, a couple of years ago when I brought my kids here, they were being screamed at by violent vagrants, and it was scaring the hell out of my kids. And one of the things that we've done already in Union Station in just 9 days is we've made it a place where people can walk around safely. They can bring their kids again. They can see this beautiful monument, the architecture. They can have a meal with their friends and their loved ones because, again, we brought some law and order back to Washington, D.C. So I want to thank Pete Hegseth and Stephen Miller. I want to thank all the people, the guardsmen here and the police officers who have worked very hard. And I know that we've traded now some violent, crazy people who are screaming at kids with a few crazy liberals who are screaming at the vice president. But I think that's a very worthwhile trade to make because we want our people to be able to enjoy our beautiful cities. And the last thing I'll say is to the American people, D.C. is already safer than it was 9 days ago, but we're going to make it safer still to come. This is your city. You should feel free to come and visit here, have a meal, see all these incredible monuments, and actually enjoy yourself. And that's what we're trying to make happen. And I think that if we set a standard in Washington, D.C., that political willpower can bring some common sense, law and order back to these communities, then maybe some other communities and other cities will follow suit. So it's kind of crazy. You hear these guys outside. They appear to hate the idea that Americans can enjoy their communities. They do the fact that D.C. a week ago had a higher murder rate than Trinidad and Tobago, which the United States State Department has said you shouldn't visit because it's unsafe. We ought to be able to enjoy great American cities. That's what we're trying to do with the Trump administration. We want to thank all of our law enforcement and National Guardsmen for making it possible. We made a lot of progress in 9 days. We're going to make a whole lot more. I'll let Pete and Stephen Miller say something, and we'll take a few questions from the reporters. So, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'll just start by saying yes and amen to everything you said. The American people, the residents of D.C. deserve a safe and beautiful city. That's our mission. That's what every one of these captains, lieutenants, staff sergeants, specialists, privates, they're here because they're patriots who serve the country and believe we deserve a beautiful, safe capital. And when I talk to all of them, Stephen, we've all had a chance to talk to them, they're proud of this mission. They're proud to be a part of making sure law and order is established here in the capital. The resourcing with everything they need, working with our law enforcement partners. So the National Guard, the Defense Department is proud to be standing with you and the President and ensuring we have a safe capital that is beautiful and the residents can come visit. And we're committed to this mission just like the one at the southern border and in Los Angeles. Our law enforcement officers deserve to be able to do their job safely. And American citizens, putting American citizens and our country first is something President Trump has emphasized from the beginning. So thank you to these troops. I know I always liked a good cheeseburger when I was in uniform, so hopefully we can deliver a few of those. It's an honor to be here with you, and also thank you for being here.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you to the Vice President for bringing us here today, and the Secretary for your leadership, and most importantly, thank you to the men and women of the National Guard. Here's the most important point. There are residents who lived in Washington, D.C.
their entire lives. Their parents lived here, their grandparents lived here, and they have lived for generations in intolerable conditions of crime and decay. There are parts of the city, I moved to the city 20 years ago. There are places where I've seen graffiti that has been untouched for 2 decades. There are homeless encampments that have made it impossible for families to use public parks and public recreation for as long as I've lived here. There are hundreds of residents of this city who are shot in street violence every single year, making it one of the most violent cities on planet Earth. And for too long, 99% of this city has been terrorized by 1% of this city. And the voices that you hear out there, those crazy communists, they have no roots. They have no connections to the city. They have no families they're raising in this city. They have no one that they're sending to school in this city. They have no jobs in this city. They have no connections to this community at all. But they're the ones who've been advocating for the 1%, the criminals, the killers, the rapists, the drug dealers. And I'm glad they're here today. Because me, Pete, and the vice president are all going to leave here, and inspired by them, we're going to add thousands more resources to this city to get the criminals and the gang members out of here. We're going to dismantle those networks, and we're going to prove that a city can serve for the law-abiding citizens who live there. We are not going to let the communists destroy a great American city, let alone the nation's capital. And let's just also address another thing. All these demonstrators that you've seen out here in recent days, all of these elderly white hippies, they're not part of the city and never have been. And by the way, most of the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. are black. This is not a city that has had any safety for its black citizens for generations. And President Trump is the one who is fixing that with the support of the Metropolitan Police Department, the support of the National Guard, and our federal law enforcement officers. So we're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old, and we're going to get back to the business of protecting the American people and the citizens of Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Stephen. A few questions.
Mr. Vice President, why are troops stationed here at Union Station on the National Mall instead of areas in D.C. where crime is statistically highest?
Well, if you've ever been to Union Station in the last few years with your family, you know that crime is actually extremely high right here in Union Station. You have vagrants, you have drug addicts, you have the chronically homeless, you have the mentally ill who harass, who threaten violence, who attack families, and they've done it for far too long. This should be a monument to American greatness. This should be a place where you can come and share a meal or go shopping with your family. It should not be a place where parents of small children are afraid to bring them because, to Stephen's point, we've empowered criminals over the people who actually need public safety in the city. So
notice how he says it's hard for I want to bring my family here. I brought my family here, and they're yelling at me. They brought my family here, and they're yelling. He's going like a broken record over and over and over and over, saying the same thing. Didn't answer the question. The question was, why aren't you in other areas that are even more difficult to handle, I guess you can say, more harsh or harsher? He's not addressing the question properly. He's going around in his same circular motion. Thank you, Saunders. I appreciate your hatred. Minority and women don't belong in government. Okay, now we're going someplace else. They power trip. Facts. So we have our brains sullied, not brainwashed, but our brains are sullied. It appears. Let me get back to the video.
I think Union Station is a great example of what's possible when you actually have the political willpower to bring law and order and common decency back to the public spaces of the United States of America. So many Americans live in cities. They occupy these spaces. They know how unsafe they are, and they would love to be able to just live their life in places like Union Station without violent criminals making it impossible. We have changed so much in 9 days, and I thought it important to highlight how great of a space this could be,
how easy it could be to actually enjoy something like Union Station if you just had politicians who stopped prioritizing violent criminals over the public citizens who deserve public safety in their own communities.
And to add to that real quick, we talked to a first responder before we came up here, said this is their #1 call location is Union Station for first responders. So it's not as if this is insignificant. In many ways, this is part of the epicenter. And we go to that and return it to a safe location that it should be. It also frees up resources around the city. And you've seen a majority of the arrests happening in a lot of those places that need help.
Right.
For crime
Will you extend past 30 days?
For crime.
Will you extend past 30 days? And do you think you have congressional? Will Congress go along with it?
Well, look, we'll ultimately let the President of the United States determine where we are after 30 days of this emergency order. I think that we're going to make a lot of progress over the next 20 days. I think that we're 9 days into this thing. But if the President of the United States thinks that he has to extend this order to ensure that people have access to public safety, then that's exactly what he'll do. If he thinks he doesn't have to do that, obviously he'll make that determination. But what we're going to do is try to empower these guys to do as good of a job as possible to bring public safety and order back to Washington, D.C. This is the national, cultural, and political capital of the world's greatest nation. And you talk to people, black, brown, white, so many of them are afraid to bring their kids into its public spaces. It's a shame. It's a blight.
Notice he didn't say of the black, brown, and white. He didn't say red or yellow. His wife is red. She's an Indian. She's got the red skin, not red, not feather, but red dot. So his wife is an Indian. He didn't even mention. I don't know. He's just going. I'm just nitpicking now. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying. I'm just messing with him. No one is approving that budget to rebuild that S-hole. Seems like they already have, haven't they? What are you talking about, son to son 90? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, he likes smelling onions. I don't know what you're talking about there either. Are you talking about like what are you saying? You got to explain yourself a little further, son to son 90. They approved the budget to rebuild Union Station. So why'd you say that no one is approving it? Now I'm confused. I'm scratching my head. A little confused now, son 90. Let me get back to this video.
It actually should make every American ashamed that the world's leading superpower, our national capital, was unsafe for families to walk around at night. That is a disgrace. We don't.
This is another thing that really gets me about both sides, left and right. The family. Oh, the family. What about their families? We have to feed their families. We have to take care of the families. The family. What about individuals? What if you just want to be by yourself? Or, just as a couple? Where is that? Where is the protection of them and their rights? It's the family. It's the unit of father, mother, child. And that, I guess, is the beginning of a family. Husband and wife, mother and father and mother, and a child or children. And what about and others families? There's grandparents, there's aunties, there's uncles, there's nephews, there's nieces, there's cousins. All of that has to be family as well. But what if you don't want that? What if it's just yourself as an individual? Is that so dirty? Is that so wrong? Is that so derogatory? Is that so backwards? We need those funds for sex changes. I meant to put an A at the end. Sonny's asking a question, but he's not giving any money. So I'm not going to ask it on air. Facts. We need those funds for my... Oh, my God. It's Saunders you. No, that's a question. That's a question. You need $5 for that.
Think that it's acceptable, and thank God we have presidential leadership to change it, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Were crime statistics manipulated by the DC police?
Well, I think that crime statistics all over our country were massively underreported because a lot of people would pick up the phone, they'd call somebody, they'd try to get help, and nobody would show up. If you look at wait times, at 911 response times all across our country, but certainly in Washington, D.C., they were way too long. And that wasn't because of the D.C. police. That was because there was too much crime and too few law enforcement agents on the street to bring order and decency to this city. You talk to these guys. I talked to 3 police officers earlier. I talked to the National Guard. They are so happy that they've been empowered to do their job, which is to make American streets safe for American citizens. And I think that empowerment is going to keep on going until we make America, and D.C. in particular, a safe place again.
What evidence do you have that the DOJ has? Are you going to be releasing it?
I'm sorry.
Why isn't Stephen Miller, advisor and White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, why isn't he included on the Chiron? That's kind of weird. They couldn't fit him in on the Chiron. He had some words to say. He's part of the administration. That seems kind of goofy to me. That seems very goofy. But let me continue.
All right.
Are you going to be releasing evidence of this?
Of what? The DC has a terrible crime problem? You just got to look around. Obviously, DC has a terrible crime problem. The Department of Justice statistics back it up. The FBI statistics back it up. Just talk to a resident of this city, this beautiful, great American city. Don't they deserve... We talk about human rights. We hear these people outside screaming, free DC. Let's free DC from lawlessness. Let's free Washington, D.C. from one of the highest murder rates in the entire world. Let's free Washington, D.C. so that young families can walk around and feel safe and secure. That's what we're trying to free D.C. from. And as Stephen said, it's kind of bizarre that we have a bunch of old, primarily white people who are out there protesting the policies that keep people safe when they've never felt danger in their entire lives.
Which cities are next? Are you going to target any other?
Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. What are your thoughts on the establishment media's criticisms of President Trump's push to end the Russia-Ukraine war?
Well, I'll let these guys jump in. I mean, look, on the Russia-Ukraine war, we'll obviously have time to talk about that. I think the president campaigned on being a president of peace. He's already ended 6 wars. He's trying to end another. I think it's kind of disgraceful that the American media is attacking the president for trying to bring peace to the world. But most importantly, the president is trying to bring peace to the streets of our own cities. I really can't overemphasize this enough. It's the greatest country in the world. We've got moms and dads and young families. Shouldn't they be able to enjoy public spaces without vagrants taking away basic public safety from the American citizenry? The fact that it's taken so long to bring common decency and law and order back to Washington, D.C. is an indictment of a generation of failed leadership. And I hope these guys know how grateful we are that they're doing the job that so many failed to do. They're actually keeping the city safe. We're proud of you, and we're grateful to you.
Polls show that a majority of DC residents don't support the Guard. What's your message to that?
I'm sorry?
Polls show that a majority of DC residents don't support the Guard here. So what's your message to the majority of DC residents?
I'm highly skeptical that a majority of DC residents don't want their city to have better public safety and more reasonable safety standards within Washington, D.C. I don't know what poll you're talking about. Maybe the same polls that said Kamala Harris would win the popular vote by 10 points. Okay, we're going to stop there. We're going to grab a quick bite with some of the soldiers here and the National Guard who are keeping the city safe again. I just want to say we're grateful to these guys. You guys are making D.C. safe again. We're proud of you, and we're grateful to you.
Russia City today needs to be involved in security guarantees.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, press.
Go back.
Cool press. You gotta move.
Is that?
Press responsibility, you play with it. Where's the rest of the pool? Yeah, one right there. Let's go. Go, y'all. George, open up. First up.
The vice president, the Secretary of Defense and Stephen Miller showed up at Union Station, that they weren't necessarily warmly embraced?
Well, you showed me video of the National Guard playing with some kids in one community. We know that the vice president and Pete Hegseth were there at Union Station buying Shake Shack, buying food for the National Guard. They've arrested 550 people, made D.C. safe again.
One of the points that the vice president made was the demographics yesterday. And he was talking about how, I don't know if a lot of people know, but the nickname for Washington, D.C. was once Chocolate City because of the large amount of black residents that were there. And the vice president made the point, why do you have these white liberals out there condemning this when the black residents are praising this because they want a future too? A small percentage of the population shouldn't be able to determine if people are able to live safely in their community. So you have the president going after the drugs, going after the theft, going after the murders in their community so kids and families can live safely again.
I don't understand why anyone would be against this. More policing, more people being arrested that are criminals. I would love for this to happen in New York City. I hope our city's next.
90% of the people in that city voted for Democrats, and that's what Vice President and the Secretary of Defense walked into yesterday. Listen.
This is the guy who thinks people don't deserve law and order in their own community.
Mr. Vice President, how did it go?
Look at them, like maniacs. And what does he mean, free DC? Are you looking at the crime stats there? And that's with the fudge numbers. So does that seem like a free city? Look at this, just a maniac.
That guy's screaming.
Right, and they're getting rid of the homeless encampments. They're putting them into facilities. They're cleaning up the city so it's not an embarrassment when world leaders come. So here's Vice President Vance.
If you just take control of these cities, you can make them safe places to live in.
So your pal Gavin Newsom calls this an abuse of power, that this is just a power grab, and this is all stunt for show, and that you all are going to roll through other cities. You've heard things about, oh, martial law is going to be declared.
Yep.
And to that you say?
Well, first of all, how is it a power grab or how is it a stunt when we've already declined murders by 35% in 9 days? How many people are living and breathing today because Donald Trump had the willpower to say, you know what, we're sick of D.C. being a home to lawlessness. We're going to bring some public order back to the nation's capital. So what I would say to Gavin Newsom or to anybody else in some of these big blue states or big blue cities is you can have law and order, you can have common decency, you can have public spaces that young families can go to again.
I just would love recruiting, a massive recruiting move to replace the National Guard with cops. There are about 1,000 cops down. So if you could change, if Janine Pirro can, Judge Janine can change the laws, and then you can get 1,000 more cops in, and you could sign them up, get those incentives in. So when they come in and do these city operations, they can leave more cops in their wake.
The problem is a lot of these liberal cities, they don't like the cops. They don't support them. They demonize them. I spent maybe 3 to 4 years on this network, going to every single liberal city, trying to get their mayors, their representatives to do interviews with me. They wouldn't allow the cops to do it. I have to speak to the union. Anytime I showed up to a family, and Angela, you saw me many times on Sean's show, meeting with families, planning funerals with families, because they were so aghast about what happened to their precious babies, and no one in the city leadership would ever show up for those families.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page.
Let me see. I'm looking for video now. Let me see.
Meanwhile, Vice President
today with the Vice President. Vice President JD Vance is making a stop in Metro Atlanta today to promote the President Trump's planned tax cut contained in the passed One Big Beautiful Bill. The White House says this is happening later today in Peachtree City. Now, the moves in the president's bill include permanently continuing cuts originally enacted in 2017 during Mr. Trump's first term in office. It also includes above-the-line deductions for both tips and overtime pay, effectively exempting them from federal income tax. And it contains a higher child tax credit and senior deductions. Here now to talk more about the tax cuts and what we can expect from the vice president's visit is Alex Zong. He is the associate professor of law at Emory and an expert on tax law and policy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Chesley. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Alex, Vice President Vance is coming to town. Obviously, his office is saying that they're talking about this bill, right? A win for working families. But when you strip it away, all the rhetoric, does the math really start mathing here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 2025 tax bill basically gives almost everyone a little bit of a tax cut. One thing to note that this is not really an overhaul of the tax system like what we saw in President Trump's first term in 2017. Most of the tax cuts actually came from just extending, making permanent the 2017 tax cuts enacted during his first term. I think the important provisions in the bill are, extension of the lower tax rates, a larger standard deduction, some of the child tax credit stuff, as well as state and local tax deduction. As you mentioned, there was a number of miscellaneous provisions, primarily campaign promises like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I think experts have taken a look at this bill. If you make, let's say, $50,000 to $75,000, you're looking at about $1,000 of tax savings. So that can be quite substantial for some of these working families, for sure.
Talk to me about a family living in Atlanta that's working paycheck to paycheck. What does these tax actually mean?
Again. Families. What is a family? I don't even know what the hell a family is. What is a family? Is it like the mob, the mafia? Aren't they a family? Working families, what is that? What about individuals? It's great to have family. I'm not knocking families. Families are great, whatever, it's fine. But individuals are the key components of any family. You can't have a family without the individual. The group can't be a group without the individual. This is the left and the right. Single mother home is what they care about. I think they don't care about single mother homes. They just want to get their political points in. Whenever they talk about single mothers or something like that, they're talking about trying to, get the mothers onto some other programs or something like that, and strip her of her WIC and her SNAP and all these provisions. Those should come later. I'm against WIC and SNAP and all these programs, but they're not even at the top of the list. And they may not be in the top 20, top 30 things that need to be eliminated from government. Regulations and controls, those are what need to stop. They need to end as quickly as possible. We need to put an end to government controls, government regulations. I'm okay with private regulations and controls, because that's the whole point too. It's like, a skyscraper. There's a very famous picture. I think it's called Lunch Atop a Skyscraper, and there's these men all sitting on a beam, thousands of feet in the air, or hundreds, if not thousands, hundreds of feet in the air, and they're each eating lunch like nothing's going on, like they're not suspended and nothing is underneath them to save them. They have no cables connected to them. They have nothing. They're completely free. They're just eating lunch, just like in the 1930s. That could never happen today. And what's worse is the red tape that you have to go around, the red tape that you have to break through. That's the issue that should be at hand. I know I'm going off the rail a little bit, but I'm just saying with regulations and controls, that's what I'm saying. You can't have that because of OSHA right now. What is that? Occupational safety and hat. Let me look it up. Let me make sure I know what it is. I think it's occupational safety and health administration. So you could never do what those men on the lunch line were doing 30 years ago. They may not even have. I think they did have hats. I don't think that it would have mattered if they had fallen to their deaths. In racism against whites. OSHA, not OSHO, OSHA. But that's the main thing. Not people, figure out what families will take care of themselves. And the police and the military, defend rights. The same thing with the courts. The law courts, the military, and the police are the only proper functions of government. That's it. Nothing else. All the alphabet soup, the FDA, the OSHA, NOAA, DEA, and so many other alphabet soup organizations should be eliminated. And that was free up the grant. And if the government wanted more money by getting rid of these organizations, they should sell off all the national landmarks, all the national parks, all the different museums and stuff like that. That's probably at least $10 to $10 trillion, maybe even more, worth of land and property that could be used for private use. I'm just saying. I was the one who told Diddy to sign Biggie back in the day. I'm sure you were, Bubba. Osho is the knowledge you need. Biggie was gay. Okay. I think it was bisexual. He may not have been completely outright gay, but I think it was
for them. And are they going to feel some of the relief from that, or is this kind of a smoke and mirrors kind of thing?
Yeah, I think for a lot of these.
Or should I ask the question, was Biggie bisexual?
Tax cuts, you have to get the broader picture. So, if you're like a family working paycheck to paycheck, you'll definitely see some tax relief, right? I think you might see a couple $100s of cuts, like when you file your taxes. You might see upwards to like $1,000, a couple thousand if you make a little bit more. Of course, the extension of the lower tax rates from 2017 also mean that if you're really wealthy, you can save a lot of money. I think if you make more than $1 million, you're looking at tax savings more like $70,000, right? I also think that it depends on what kind of profession you work in. If you work in a tipped profession, obviously there's good news for you. There's a deduction up to $25,000 per year. If you make up to about $150,000 after that, it starts to phase out a bit. Of course, the limitation is that you have to work in a profession that customarily and regularly receive tips. So, for example, a restaurant or housekeeper in a hotel, that kind of thing. And of course, if you work overtime in like an hourly paid, non-professional kind of job, then you'll also get a deduction on overtime pay up to $12,500. So if you fall under any of these categories, you're going to see a little bit more in tax savings than other people.
So we talk about the tax breaks, but we also see cuts in Medicaid and SNAP benefits. Is it essentially taking from one spot and giving it to another?
Yeah, I think, like the federal bill is going to cut Medicaid spending by quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, like if you rely on Medicaid, then yes, you will be seeing some of that benefits cut at some point in the future. And so you're right. I mean, you are taking some money, right? You're taking some money from the spending the social welfare programs to a couple of places, right? You're funding the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. More importantly, you're also funding a very large tax cut to people who are making, to people in the highest marginal tax rate bucket, who make more than like $700,000. And of course, one thing about all of these deductions, I always tell my students in class, is that they're upside down subsidies, right? So what I mean by that is that, if your family, let's say, you make $30,000, you have $3,000 worth of tipped income, the no tax on tip is actually not worth anything to you because in the federal government, for the federal government, you pay a marginal tax rate of like 0%. You don't care about the deduction. On the other hand, if you're a household making more like $300,000 and you make $10,000 worth of tipped income, you're actually getting maybe a few thousand back from the federal government. So so when you structure anything like a deduction, like these no tax on tips kind of provisions, you are giving more of a benefit to people who make more just because they're subject to a higher tax rate.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Alex, would you say that this bill is more of a bill tax policy, or is it a campaign strategy to dress up tax relief?
I think this is really a campaign strategy, and tax so much is about politics. And the president had made so many campaign promises, no tax on tips, the overtime, Social Security, and so on and so forth. I think this is just part of fulfilling his campaign promise. Obviously, this is an extremely expensive part of legislation. It's going to cost Congress upwards of $4 trillion over the next few years. So in a way, right, I mean, like we have so much federal debt, we're going to have to raise taxes to pay for all of it anyway.
Wow.
So, if there's any losers, right, I mean, almost everyone's getting a tax savings. If there's any loser from this bill, it's really people in the future, right? People who have higher earning potential in the future versus now. The tax cuts don't mean all that much to them now, but we're going to have to raise taxes on them in the future to pay for everything.
Alex Zong, thanks so much for joining us, man, and all your insight. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Let's see.
Of the country for the past 3 elections voted in a landslide form for President Trump, right? So that's not going to change when it comes to the amount of people that are on the right side of history. You know what I mean? Like, and especially if more people get out the vote, there's some people that you think about, there's 340 some odd million people, 347 million at last check, right? And I know there's a number of people that are below 18, so they can't vote yet. But those that are above 18, right? There's still millions of people that haven't voted before or whatever. And we really need to still get out the vote, especially for those midterm elections, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I know, some conservatives might be feeling a lot better because of what's happening in Texas and redistricting. But at the same time, we cannot afford to lose the momentum that has been built by President Donald J. Trump so far. We need to stand behind him firmly so that he can fully execute his entire plan. It shouldn't have to stop at the midterms because a lot of people just don't show up thinking that Republicans are going to win in a lot of these very tight races. And there will be tight races. We just can't get too comfortable. You got to get out there and vote. Already make a plan of doing so. Make a plan of letting the people that you love and care about know that, hey, come November 5th, we've got to make sure that we're ready to vote in 2026.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's still some time away, but still, I'm sure the ads are going to start being posted. Maybe President Trump will be holding whether tele rallies or in-person rallies. We'll see what happens. As we know, midterms are going to be important. Let's shift over from politics to weather quickly. I believe we do have a graphic that shows the latest when it comes to the model of Hurricane Erin. And I wanted to ask you, since you've been a meteorologist in the mainstream, still a meteorologist to this day, we see the track of it, right? We see it and it looks like it was headed right to the Atlantic coast. And then somehow it makes that right turn right back that way. Is that how does it make such a 180 basically?
You know, it has a lot to do with what's happening in the upper levels of the atmosphere and the mid levels of the atmosphere. And in conjunction, you have to think about what's happening with the ocean currents. So there's a lot of different variables at play. What's so interesting about this storm, though, is what a great impact it's had, especially on the coastal areas of North Carolina. Considering it didn't make landfall, it essentially just skirted the area. And we're not done just yet, although the system is now, it's a Category 2 storm, 105 mile per hour max winds. It's going to swing back out to the northeast. As it continues to move up toward colder water, it loses that fuel, so it's expected to weaken significantly. But tonight, we have high tide at about 7 p.m. in North Carolina. And so we're expecting 25-foot waves. We could see inland flooding. We're not done just yet. And then there's 3 other disturbances right now in the Atlantic Basin that we're monitoring for development. All these systems right now look like they're going to turn to the northeast and away from the United States, but we are getting into the peak of the hurricane season. Now, what's interesting about this storm, Aaron, it is historical. It intensified faster than almost any other storm that we've seen on record. It went from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 hurricane in 24 hours. And what's so fascinating about this is that most of the computer models completely blew it. They did not forecast that rapid intensification. So what that tells me, if you're somebody who lives in Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, make sure that you're watching the models carefully. You can trust your meteorologist, but you also have to evacuate if that is what the forecast, if it warrants that. You need to go if it looks like it's a strong storm, because our models aren't getting it right. And our meteorologists are reliant on the models. So it's just one of those years where you just really need to pay attention for yourself and look out for your family.
Well, that leads me to my next question, because I went to the NOAA website there, obviously government entity, and I see that the map shows that the hurricane's going to go east, that 180 east. But you were just saying, some of the models, it might. Basically, my question is, can that hurricane not go northeast and still slam against the coast of our eastern seaboard?
It's not an exact science. And I think if you're anywhere between Virginia and Nova Scotia, you still need to watch very carefully where the storm is headed. But I think because it has lost a lot of its power, it's going to continue to move north. And the further it gets away from the equator, the colder the ocean currents, the colder the ocean is. And so that will take a lot of the energy away from that storm. But I think what's different is the confidence that we have about some of these storms. When they're a tropical storm, a tropical depression, we don't really know. There's no distinct eye wall. You really cannot forecast. When you have an eye wall, when you have an actual center of circulation, it gets a little bit easier. The models are a little bit more accurate. But when you just have like a blob of tropical, thunderstorms and heavy rainfall, it's really hard to dictate what's going to happen with that air mass. But when we continue to watch these storms, when they do get that defined eye, it becomes a little bit more certain. So I think that everybody, for the most part, is safe. I would call these storms, when they head out to sea, fish spinners, because that's really all they impact: maritime interests and fish.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's wild, though, that it went from a tropical storm quickly over to a Cat 5 in 24 hours. That's pretty wild. And then maybe, you never know. I know you're a person of faith, as am I, and as are many people that watch Right Side. Who knows? Maybe someone in North Carolina really started praying to God. God, I don't want this to hit our state. I'm not joking. I really believe in the power of prayer. You never know. That could have been the reason why it happened, or it's just the way the weather current and the system happened. But either way, I'm glad it's going that way and not hitting the coast. All right. So we saw some photos from Georgia. If we could show some of those again, Director. Thank you guys so much for all your work behind the scenes as we continue to bring you live coverage here. So we saw some photos there. We saw some videos of just a lot of people in line to see Vice President JD Vance. And, we know that a lot of states are benefiting from the big, beautiful law with tax cuts and so many other things. What's your overall assessment on what's going on with our country right now?
I think it's geopolitical tensions that we should be the most concerned about. I think President Trump has done everything that he said that he was going to do, get our country back on track. Once he gets Jerome Powell to fall in line, it's the housing market that's still hurting, but the general overall economy is improving. So I think that anything that could disrupt all of the goodness that President Trump has worked so hard to do for us as Americans, the one thing that could unravel that would be some of these geopolitical tensions, specifically when you look at what's happening with Russia, because I don't think that Putin is going to back down that easily. But what's interesting is President Trump has a lot more leverage over Russia than people realize, and it has everything to do with Russian oil. Russian oil is primarily exported to China and India. That's where 90% of Russian oil goes. Now, Putin knows that President Trump could do what he has floated, which is he wants to put maybe up to 500% tariffs on goods from India and China and other states that import Russian oil. It's the Russian oil that has fueled the war machine for Putin. But what people don't recognize is Russia doesn't have a lot of storage capacity. They don't have places to hold that oil. So they sell it to China and India at deep discounts because they have to keep it moving. In addition to not having that storage capacity, their infrastructure is old and it's failing. And so if they're to slow it down or cut it off altogether, everything could grind to a halt. And this could be the case for months. So President Trump essentially has the power. If India and China stop buying oil, President Trump has the power to knock them offline for a very long time, if not permanently. And he knows that. And President Putin knows that. And I think that's a big part of why he went to Alaska and met with President Trump. But if everything goes as we've seen so far, and I don't see any reason why it won't, because President Trump has led through strength, peace through strength. He posted a picture, though, today on Truth Social of him kind of looking down at Putin. Did you see that? And he's pointing down at Putin with his finger almost in his chest. And it's juxtaposed to a picture of Nixon in 1959 with the Russian premier, when, yes, as we all know, he had a very hard stance on the Cold War. So it's interesting. President Trump is showing, hey, I'm not afraid of you. And he knows he's got the leverage. And the reason why is because of that Russian oil.
Well, then also, if you look at the trip to Alaska, so the Alaska Summit on Friday, August 15th, a great coverage here at the network by Robert McNeely, and also millions of people that watch that throughout all of our social platforms, just a minor plug. But anyway, the point is that there was the B-2 bomber and a number of jets that flew over when President Trump was walking and greeting Vladimir Putin. So that was flying right over, kind of like, hey, welcome to our country, bro. Like, let's get this all taken care of. Let's get this Russia-Ukraine war stopped. And also, outside of that, you know, stopping the killing is the number one priority. And then to your point, we don't want to have to deal with all these sanctions and all this other stuff.
I'm looking for another site because it was kind of sketchy. It was already, you know, full of faith talk. So I'm not sure that was the best one. They may have to edit that part out. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try to see if there's another one available.
Vice President JD Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth received a not-so-warm welcome visiting National Guard service members yesterday at Union Station in D.C. They were met with a myriad of boos and heckling. Let's just take a look. Wow. Vance was also asked if the administration will extend the National Guard's deployment in Washington, D.C. past the current 30 days and if he thinks Congress will cooperate. Let's hear his response.
We'll ultimately let the President of the United States determine where we are after 30 days of this emergency order. I think that we're going to make a lot of progress over the next 20 days. I think that we're 9 days into this thing. But if the President of the United States thinks that he has to extend this order to ensure that people have access to public safety, then that's exactly what he'll do.
Meanwhile, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller also joined the pair on their visit. He's garnering a lot of views on social media for this moment. Let's watch.
All these demonstrators that you've seen out here in recent days, all of these elderly white hippies, they're not part of this city and never have been.
You tell them.
Well, first of all, that's no, you can't just say, oh, they somebody flew here or drove here just to do this. Like, people live here. DC is one of the most diverse cities.
Radar, I also hate elderly white hippies.
Yes, but it's like, come on. These protesters have been out there consistently. They need to live out here at this point if they're not real protesters, because they've spent a lot of time.
Jobs, I don't like protesters even when I agree with what they're protesting for.
Well, you like free speech, so we know that that's just going to stand, right? They should be outside.
Shot.
Look, I'm not surprised that they got met with boos. I haven't met a lot of people that enjoy federal authorities here. Now, while you say, yes, I enjoy being protected and I would like local law enforcement to be bolstered and I want to feel safe in my neighborhood, that's a different feeling than wanting military trucks driving around the street and just people in army uniforms just standing around. Like, it just presents a feeling that people maybe didn't want a militarization in their city. And I think that's fair. And just going back to the beginning of why we're here and why we couldn't have worked with local leaders to get this done effectively without the entire military. No, we're not. We're forcing the federal government inside of DC and militarizing it when they could have worked with local leaders to figure out how to actually implement long-term solutions like community policing, which would have made the police more attached and have an understanding about the community instead of just being from anywhere in the country and just coming here and trying to police places like the 7th and 8th Ward, which I'm just learning about because I'm new to DC, but it's mostly people of color. And you talk about some of those young kids who are like outside and spending a lot of time with their friends late night. Some of them might be committing crimes, but some of them probably just need youth programs so that they can get off the street, because unfortunately sometimes the parents are working late and don't have the capacity to watch their kids until, let's say, 11 p.m. when they get home. So these things could all be rectified if real solutions were put in place to kind of like house homeless folks and come up with community programs and put local programs in place so that kids can have activities to do or be tired by 11 p.m.
You know who shut down the community programs?
COVID.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not
Democrats.
who. COVID. Dr. Fauci, who President Trump put in position to do things like that and make those calls. Yes, Trump put him in position. And let me just say, as DC was starting to clean up since COVID and do some of these things, like regulate guns more, like put in community programs, crime dropped. No matter if you want to believe the statistics or not, crime has dropped. And that's because of the Secure DC Act that Muriel Bowser signed into law last year.
Yeah,
it's been effective.
It dropped from third world hellhole to
and in COVID, crime increased. So third world, whatever you just called it, decreased across the country.
We have worse crime. Okay, I don't have the argument about how we agree crime came down. That's a good thing. The baseline is
because
still
of what
too bad.
Democratic leadership did in DC, specifically Muriel Bowser being a champion of this Secure DC Act, and so that's why crime went down. So maybe if he would have bolstered up what she was already trying to do, rather than overstep and put federal authorities in places where Republicans generally say they don't want them, which is local territories. I just don't understand.
Okay. I want to talk about Union Station specifically, however. Union Station is a building I've spent a lot of time in. I go to New York quite frequently. I'm actually doing so today as soon as we finish taping the show. Union Station used to be a building. In fact, when I came to DC on field trips in the 8th grade, you could spend time in Union Station. That was a long time ago. Union Station, beautiful building. It's not like, New York's new train hall, Moynihan Hall is pretty nice, but the existing one is like the most depressing, disgusting underground complex ever. Union Station is beautiful, Greco-Roman architecture, had all these nice shops, really nice building that was ruined, was overtaken by criminal, insane, homeless people. Seriously, this happened.
All the shops, the people are criminal, homeless, and insane. They're all
a variety of all the same.
Okay.
Variety. I mean, all the shops there closed, not all at once, not overnight, but over time, because the customers were constantly being harassed, heckled. This has happened to me by homeless people who live there, by mentally ill people, soiling themselves in public, just gross stuff. And then a tent city formed during COVID on the front lawn. This is all the response. This is responsibility of the Parks Department that runs that, is supposed to run that land. It is the federal government supposed to administer it.
Okay.
So I don't want fascism. I don't love the idea of just police being everywhere. I don't want to show papers. I don't think police being stationed everywhere is a long-term solution for things like the metro, for instance. A lot of the time we see videos now that police are just standing around on the metro. It doesn't seem like good use of their time, frankly. But Union Station needed to be brought under control so it can flourish, so businesses can reopen there. And I'm sorry, I don't care what that takes, but if that takes a little bit more aggressive policing, that's what it takes.
And I think we agree that DC should be safer. This is my new home. Happy for it to be safer. I think we agree that Union Station is a beautiful building and should operate in the way that you experienced it in 8th grade. But what I disagree about is the fact that we should have the federal government just completely disregarding what a local leader like Muriel Bowser may or may not have wanted, in the same way that Trump.
What she wants is 800 more police officers.
Okay, so
then
he could have had a sit-down conversation and then publicize that like he did with Netanyahu last Friday. He could have sat down with Muriel Bowser, put a camera on them, and decided how they're going to continue to secure DC and put funds in place to allow local leaders to flourish in the way that we've elected them to do, instead of just deciding to do something and then her getting caught off guard and trying to manage how she speaks to Charlemagne, understanding that everybody's looking at her critically who are in different communities, and then other people are like, oh, we're happy to have this. Like, it's chaos. It didn't need to be this way. It could have been something situated and solved. And I know that DC wants to bring crime down, but also on the list of priorities of how crazy and hectic and crime-ridden cities are across America, DC is not even on the top 10. So it's just kind of like, okay, it's not on the top 10. My point is that we could have started anywhere if we really try to crack down on crime and be the true Republican Party of Reagan.
In a city
You're starting
that has
with DC
more federal
as an
involvement.
antagonist because of the issue that happened to the Doge employee, which I'm very sad and sorry about. Obviously, it's a terrible thing that happened, but it does not mean that federal enforcement needs to come in and sweep the city. That's one thing does not connect to the other. A Doge employee gets hurt, and so now we need to send troops in. Like, it's just this overreaction for something that could be handled properly with long conversations and long term, honestly, with working with Muriel Bowser, as opposed to a 30-day solution that Congress may or may not continue to agree upon if it should go forward.
Well, I don't know if it should go forward or not. I don't love everything the police are doing here, certainly. Sometimes it feels like a stunt, what neighborhoods they're in. Well, we need more homicide cases being solved, but their presence is going to deter crime, the kind of crime we've been experiencing for the last couple of weeks of these gangs of teenagers I keep referring to, which they're out there. They need to be sent home or sent to community programs. Fine, great. Give me some community programs.
Thank you. I would love community programs. I would love mental health and addiction treatment. I would love all these things. I would love, more space to open up in homeless shelters so that we can not just push people to Virginia and Maryland. Many long-term solutions.
But you got to actually keep them in homeless shelters. Like the problem is they leave the home.
But right now we're just taking a broom and pushing them to the next closest state.
We don't have time to get into how much money we spend on providing housing for the homeless in DC. If it was lack of money, I don't think anyone could possibly look at the amount of money and say it was a lack of money, but we'll have to debate that at a later junction. Right now, a new report is saying that Elon Musk's political plans might be changing again. Is this good news for the Republican Party? We'll talk about it after a quick break. More Rising right after this.
Okay, so they were going back and forth, and they were mainly, babbling. I don't know. I think she had some good points. She was saying that they're shuffling the homeless into various locations in Maryland and Virginia. They're not really solving the problem. The problem of homelessness is, I have to say again, I sound like a broken goddamn record now. Regulations and controls. There are so many controls. And taxes afterwards, taxes down the line, but especially regulations and controls that are stopping people from opening businesses, from creating wealth for themselves. There's probably, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be pretty low. It's got to be like at 2%. It's got to be at like 3%, something like that, of homeless people that just want to be homeless, just don't want to function in society, that don't want to have some kind of connection to what other people are striving for, the American dream and things like that. It's a very low number. I think it's much it's more people that are concerned with living a better life for themselves and trying to get out of whatever situation that they currently are in. and it's really distressing and depressing to consider it. I'm looking for another video on Vance. All right, let me see. This is 2 hours ago. This is
If you were gearing up to vote for Musk's third party in the future, that might not be a possibility. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Elon Musk is quietly pumping the brakes on that plan for a third party. Sources had told the Wall Street Journal that he wants to focus on his companies and doesn't want to get on any Republicans' bad sides, wants to maintain ties with Vice President JD Vance.
Aw, Musk already responding to this report, posting on X, quote, "Nothing the Wall Street Journal says should ever be thought of as true." Wow. During an interview this week, Vance giving some advice to Musk regarding his potential political future. Take a look.
Well, I've stopped it right on the right second. I wanted to address in the room, we're talking about homeless people. I can vouch for being homeless. I was never, I'll say houseless. I'm at my home right now. This is my home. But I was houseless for a time, two main times. I was houseless. I like to call it what is it? I'm trying to remember what the name is now. I want to say it's something residentially challenged. I was residentially challenged. I was homeless for 6 years. Wow, Rick James. Wow. I lived in the streets with the bums, Frederick and Beaver. Wiz got all about the dollars and busting. He not taking no wrenches. Well, that was cute. Thank you for the hate, Son of the Sun 90. But you can get your panties out of a twist right now. That'd be helpful. But anyway, I was gonna say how I was residentially challenged for quite a few months, almost a year. But I was in a halfway house, which I had roof, cable. You had a space to put your food. You had, access. But the thing is, it was also about anti-substance abuse and stuff like that. It was, you can't do drugs. You're not going to be able to do drugs in a halfway house. You're not going to be able to drink in a halfway house. I had to take piss tests. I had to take breathalyzers when I went out and came back in. I mean, and then they had the meetings. I was like, oh, these goddamn meetings. It's like you had to always go to them. But I was like, okay, I live under this roof. I'll comply. I was the president for a short while at one of the halfway houses. So I know what it's like to be without a house. I'm technically still houseless. I have a home, but I'm still houseless. I can get a loan for the VA pretty simply. See where that goes. So you went to jail. I thought halfway houses for people who came home from jail. I may be saying it wrong. I don't know. There's what they were called was Crescent House and Cherry Street. That's the literal places where I thought they were called halfway houses because they're in between you having a house and you not having a house. They're halfway. That's what my understanding of it. I may have mislabeled them. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there were homes. There were buildings with rooms in them that you could live in for the time being, forever long was. I feel like you have an interesting story. You should make a book. Well, that's what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about, getting my first book published probably by next August, probably a year from now. I don't feel sorry for most homeless. They ruined California. Sky, you are in a sober living. Yes. Okay. Sober living environment. Maybe that's what SLE. Sober living environment. That was probably the best way to understand it. Yeah, I think California has one of the worst homeless problems ever, and maybe Vegas is second. Yeah, California definitely has. New York, has definitely cleaned up their act with homeless people. And like I said, it's all about regulations and controls. If you get rid of regulations and controls, there'll be so little violence and crime and force and homelessness and debauchery. It'll be a dramatic shift. It wouldn't be a trickle. It will be a flood of opportunities, because that's the thing. Under capitalism, which we don't have, which America has never experienced, we've had mixtures of socialism and capitalism, and going back and forth. Which one is better? Which one is worse? Of course, capitalism is the only social system of justice that protects individual rights, and all property rights are privately owned. That's capitalism, not compassionate capitalism, not touchy-feely capitalism, not happy capitalism, just capitalism. That's it. There's no modifiers. What will your book detail? It's going to be fiction. I'm interested in knowing. Only Wizard asked the question. He explained earlier that he couldn't donate, so I'll let this pass. This is your bingo mark, your free space. You ask a question, I answer it. I'm interested in knowing what happened to you that caused your mental illness. Respectfully, I can talk about my mental illness right now. I was in the Marine Corps, and this corporal above me was really just like on me, because it was really a racial thing. It was like I was the only black guy in, and I only say that politically. I don't subscribe to being a black man, necessarily. I subscribe to being a man. But for the purposes of the situation, was one of the other black Marines. He went to Annapolis, Maryland for some kind of ceremony or something like that. And I was the only black guy in the room. And everybody else was Hispanic or white. And so they were like really pressing me and going hard on me and everything like that. And I would take it, and I was taking it until I found a point where I just snapped, because there was an Indian, like Native American, like I like the word Indian or red man. He was coming down on me, so I was just like wilding out. I was flipping out, ripping up pages from magazines, running around until my gunnery sergeant's like a few steps above me. He corralled me. I was in what we call parade rest. You put your hands behind your back, and you spread your legs shoulder width apart. And he was like, you need to really get down on this. But the docs already took it over. They were saying, this guy needs to be shipped to California. They this is the reason why I get my money, because I did not opt for this. We could have hashed this out. But the reason why I take my money, why I've earned the money I have, is because I was administered a solution that knocked me out. I woke up in California. I was in Arizona, and I woke up miles, I think hundreds of miles away, or dozens of miles away from Arizona. I woke up in San Diego. I was in Yuma, Arizona, and I woke up in San Diego, California. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in here. Why not? Let's be real about ourselves. Let's not play around. And so fast forward, I've been to at least 4 or 5 other locations, and twice in one location. I've been to 2 private facilities. One, or was it one? I mean, in 2 total government facilities. One was active duty. The second one was veterans. And I got $23,000. Nobody talks about that, so I talk about it. You get money if you're in the, like, I'm letting people know, if you're a veteran and if you're ever find yourself, I was knocked out again, by the way. I was knocked out again. That's another reason why I'm claiming this money. Is I was knocked out, and I woke up from Bedford, Massachusetts, and Lowell, Massachusetts, to Brockton, Massachusetts, which is a few miles away. So I woke up, did the same thing, got a lawyer, a fighting Irishman from Boston. I know that I say, everybody's from Boston and Ireland, and everyone from Boston is Irish. And to an extent, that's true, but it's not totally true. But he fought for me. If you have at least a percentage rating, I had like a 70% rating back then. And then I Oh boy, trying to remember everything and put it on perspective. I then, was able to. If you have some kind of rating, you can get 100% rating after 30 days of being in the facility. So I was in for over, close to, let's see, 5 times 150 days. I was in there for 150 days because 5 months times about 30 days. It's about 150, right? So that all accumulated and got me $23,000 tax free. I was able to buy a truck, which I flipped, got the money from that. It's just a long story, but that's it. You need to put that in a book, make a bio book for fictional. Your story needs to be told. Well, I'm telling you my story right now. I don't think I'm ever going to write a biographical book on my, anything like that. I'm not going to write anything autobiographical. I'm going to do that here, but maybe not anywhere else. But I appreciate that, Wizard. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you for telling other people about me and other people subscribing. I've gained subscribers in the past few hours, so I'm very appreciative of that. Everybody that's in the live chat hate harder. That's what I need. I need the hatred. If y'all, it's a weird thing. It's like if I hear people like giving me compliments and stuff, I'm like, thanks. Like I'd rather people really go in, like go hard. Like, compliments are kind of like, just like, hi, how are you doing? Hatred is like, hey, you need to get on your point. You need to get on your post. You need to be strong. You need to, that's what it is. That's what the Marine Corps is. Could you imagine if like drill instructors like, hey, it's all right. We're going to have a good time. And, you're going to be facing down death one day, but I'm just going to be really happy and joyous and, compliment you on everything. Like that just, I'm not used to that. That's why I was so attracted, to the Marine Corps, because I knew already about hatred through Mr. Troy Star Terrain. When you're full of hatred, you have, or negativity or something like that, that is a great bond. And like I said, a lot of people say, oh, love is hate is a strong word. Love used to be a strong word, but it's been misused and abused so much that it hardly means anything at all. Yo, love is love. Love is love. I love you, man. I love you. What does that even mean? You say I hate you. Now that's like, damn, that's like a punch to the chest. It's like, damn, I hate you. God damn. Okay, well, we are going in. Okay, well, I heard like 5 pauses. Vance is the only man I would sleep with today. Oh my God. You need to put that in a book. Okay. Cuba Gooding Jr. replaced Sky in his biopic. To the masses of people, did they put you to sleep and keep shipping you to the different states? That's what happened once, and they shipped me from a different state, and they sent me to do a different city in Massachusetts. What are you doing for the 1,000 subscriber show? I don't know. You tell me. Tell me. Get those 10 subscribers. Get 10 people that Rick James. All I need is 10 more people so far. It might have changed. It was at 990 last time I checked. It might be something different now. Yeah, it was at 990. So yeah, just tell 10 people. That's all you gotta do. Tell 10 people, tell 20,000 people. I would love that. I mean, that's the weird thing about being on YouTube. It's like 1,000 people is the bare minimum. But there are people with tens of millions of subscribers. That is amazing. Yeah, you need therapy. Yeah, I do need therapy. I get therapy once every 3 to 5 months, something like that. Will you be doing a live reaction to a full episode of Sister Who got the 100 subscriber show? I will not. Sister Who creeps the hell out of me. Like all the shows you suggest. My bad. I didn't know you went through all of that. That's okay. See, like don't get soft on me now. Like I said, you go into the Marine Corps, you're expecting it to be like hell, and it was in certain circumstances. It was like hell, but you don't expect your drill instructor to be like, could you guys kind of run a little more fast? Could you run a little faster, please? Kind of for me. Could you just run a little faster? Could you pick up the ammo cans and run around a little more? Could you do some more pull-ups? Could you kind of get there? No, they're like, All right, son, you need to do some pull-ups. All right, you need to do some push-ups. You need to get on this, you need to study for this test. You need to everything was like hatred and malcontent, as it should be. Did you hear somebody paid Star $500 to sit Sunday down? I didn't hear that. Wow. Jesus, that's crazy. But we gotta get back to Vance. He's supposed to be talking. I'm gonna stay on here. I'm gonna see how long y'all can stay with me. He's supposed to talk anywhere between 1:50 and 3:30 in Atlanta, in the Peachtree City. How long did they sit Sunday down for Bamba? All right, I'm going back to the video.
If he doesn't like things the Republican Party is doing, my advice to Elon would be try to fix the Republican Party. Try to push it in your own way. Disagree with me all you want. Disagree with the President of the United States, but don't pretend that you can make a big difference with a third party. I think Elon would make a much bigger difference if he stayed loyal to President Trump's Republican Party. And if he had disagreements, express those disagreements from the inside as opposed to from the outside.
Of course, Musk was one of the Republicans' biggest donors during the 2024 election and before June falling out, one of President Trump's closest advisors. He's since publicly criticized some of Trump's economic initiatives as well as other Republican efforts.
I hear Vance talking tough in that interview, saying, oh, yeah, he might as well come back. Because he knows if Elon Musk moves forward and continues to push forward, I mean, he has a lot in common with Ross Perot, both tech rich people in that industry who can make dents possibly with their campaign. In 1992, Ross Perot got 19% of the vote, which obviously affects the election deeply. Even a smaller percentage, like we talked about yesterday, could affect the election. But even if Elon Musk comes close to what Ross Perot did in the 90s and gets 10% of the vote, he would completely jack up the Republican voting for whomever was going to be president. And Vance knows that, Elon Musk knows that. And so technically Elon Musk still has the power. And Vance is like, just come on, just, you don't want to be a Democrat. And he may not, but he also knows how much power he has and how much money he used to propel Trump's campaign, which ultimately helped Trump accomplish what he needed to, which is just get in front of enough people, spend the money how he wanted to on his campaign. And Vance technically needs that money to succeed as well as Trump because he doesn't have Trump's name, which got him through the furthest in the polls.
Yeah, it's obvious what's going on here. Vance wants to retain Elon Musk as a supporter for his own presidential run. I think he is extraordinarily likely to succeed at that. I think it would not be surprising to me at all if Elon Musk's interest in a third party fades, because running, I say this as a pretty reliable third party voter, being involved in a third party is difficult because the incentive structure is designed, the whole system is designed to benefit the two parties. It's the one thing they can agree on, to rig the game in their favor. Getting ballot access for a third party is difficult. Recruiting quality candidates is difficult. Agreeing on an agenda is difficult.
Yeah.
Because we're a very polarized society, and people, for better or worse, tend to fit pretty neatly into MAGA, Republican, conservative, right wing, or left, liberal, progressive, Democrat. Like, they're pretty coherently worked out ideologies at this point. Now, I still think they're inconsistent. I think it's better to have more personal freedom, cultural freedom, more live and let live, leave me alone, kind of the ethos of what was at one point, at least, cultural liberalism. Although now I have so many problems with wokeness, I'm not even sure that's true. I'm a cultural moderate, I guess. And then the low tax, low regulation, leave me alone financially of the Republican Party, at least the older
Everybody
Republican
leave you
Party.
alone.
Yeah.
Well,
everyone just wants to be left alone.
But in this situation, I feel quickly that Elon Musk has the power because he's like, I have $300 million for you or not for you. And so you need to make sure you guys are fiscal conservatives like you said you wanted to be. And so I think before he agrees to give Vance anything, Vance needs to agree on an agenda that he likes.
Yes, I think Elon is a good his influence is on the Republican Party in a direction I want. So I hope he withholds any financial help until he gets some economic promises.
Now, Gavin Newsom is getting pretty good at getting under Trump's skin. Why he says it's the method behind the madness. Let's check that out on my lens coming up next.
Okay, so we got that together. Let's see what else I can find. I really want to do that live stream, but I'm not sure if that's. I'm probably going to get a copyright notification because he's not. It just says Right Side Broadcasting Network. I don't know if that's fair use or not. Can I check that? Can I see this? I don't want to take a chance. All right, this is Atlanta news first. Yes, okay. So I'm going to be safe. I'm probably going to get a copyright signal. Yeah, so I just, let me see. I gotta make this bigger. I just gotta say it again. Homelessness is not optimum. It's not something that you look forward to. I want to know the percentage of people that say, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be homeless. I want to live under a bridge. I want to have excrement and urine next to me, and I want to have needles all over the place and syringes and bent spoons and crack pipes and stems all around me. And this video is disturbingly awful. It's really bad. Oh my God, what is wrong with them? It looks like soup. Homeless people have the thickest skin. I guess that's true. I'll say I have pretty thick skin. You can talk smack with them about them, but they are in their own way geniuses, sir. I be careful with the G word. I mean, I kind of use the G word a little bit too liberally. To be honest, I think I'm guilty of that. I say, oh, it's a genius. It's a genius. Like I say, a lot, people that deserve to be geniuses, but it's like you have to really be at the top of your game. You have to be super, you have to be a superlative in your field. You have to have the superlatives in your field to be regarded as a genius or a master or a legend. Breaking news: Skyler with an A would have his moderators ban donating subscriber around 30,000-ish that recruited 14 other subscribers. Is that true? 14,000. You know what? Around 30,000-ish. You mad? No, I'm just kidding. Let me give you your wrench because you're gonna be mad anyway. Let me see if I can. I'll come back to this. Let me see. Hold on. All right, somebody's talking. I can't hear him. Why can't I hear him? There's no sound. I'm confused. I don't know why there's no sound. Okay. Let me see something. How do I do this? I always forget how to do this. Here we go. You happy now? We're at 30-ish. Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy now, sir? You're official now. I appreciate it. Because you've been riding with me for a few years. For I think close to 2 years. So I appreciate it. Young Dolph's killer found not guilty. Damn. See, I might have to look into that. If this Elon Musk thing isn't popping, I might have to go to that. I can't. There's no words. I can't hear him. Do they know that? Do they know that there's no words? I can't hear anything he's saying. And the video is kind of sewed up. And nobody's in the chat. So, gotta get rid of that. I'm shaking in my boots because I don't want to use that one live stream because I'm not sure if that's free use. That may not be fair use. Just may not be fair use. So, and that was my other ticket to try to get the ANF popping. I'm seeing what happens right now. Video unavailable. Exactly. Video unavailable. They took it down because they didn't have their audio. Exactly. So that was them. That wasn't me. All right, we've already covered that. Okay. Oh, this from Ossoff.
Bill, they call it a disgrace. Ossoff is up for re-election in 2026, and the GOP has him in their sights. Republicans are calling their law the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. They say it'll boost the economy. Democrats, they say it's a giveaway to the rich. Ossoff claims Vance is hurting working families, all to give tax breaks to the wealthy, Ossoff says.
Let me say something. I already spoke about the families, but this is the realness. This is the reality. The Skyler 100 Club. Salute to Rob. Salute to you, sir. All right, so the tax cuts for the rich. Tax cuts for the rich. What is a rich? What is a rich? What is the rich, as they say? But what is a rich? A rich person. What is that? $250,000 or more a year? Annually? Well, I said a year, but is that $250,000 annually? Is that 500,000, a million, 500 million, 500 billion? Hasn't been 500 billion yet, but close to it. I mean, the productive rich, the ones that actually make and create and want to build and see things and beautiful, wonderful things and create spaces and also jobs, if that's necessary too, because that's obviously a part of their job, is that thousands of workers work, under them and labor under them. Who are the rich? Who are what is a rich person? And why should they be demonized and attacked for their ability to create? It's like, he's an artist. He's a rapper. He can get billions of dollars. That's fine. Oh, he's a hedge fund manager. He shouldn't have billions of dollars. He's a hedge fund manager. That's too weird. That's too obtuse. That's stupid. That's weird. I can't get down with it. That's too abstract. I can't really wrap my head. Oh, he raps on a song. He sold some CDs. He sold some downloads, some streams. I get that. Okay. And even then, some people say, but like it goes back to Tupac. Tupac was saying like how people with millions of dollars shouldn't, and billions of dollars, I guess too, shouldn't be able to have their money. They should be giving it away. And then they got that one video of him going, flipping off dollar bills. Like that's okay. That's okay. He's okay. He can't give away all his money to the poor. that he cares about. I care about the poor more than him probably when he was alive. But I care about the poor because they are productive too. I care about the productive. I don't care about the rich, and I don't care about the poor. I care about the productive. Anybody that creates and makes and builds and produces. That's what I care about. Now I'm gonna look for, let's see. Anyone over $1 million hairs, 250 a year is not rich. Yeah, that's true. 250,000 million a year is definitely wealthy, rich, whatever case you want to say. The FBA community, Foundation of Black Americans, have slang words and terms like hood rich and nigger rich and stuff like that. They have different levels to people being wealthy. So I'm gonna wait for this live video to strike up. Anyone over 5 million is rich. Okay. A lot of people look down on that. If you ever watched the show Billions, then you will see that there was this one instance where he was like saying, "Oh, 7-figure, millionaires. That's nothing. We got more than that." Like that's the truth. That's reality. 7-figure millionaires are great to me. I think that's extraordinary that you made 7 figures. But person with $10 billion or something like that, they're obviously going to look down on you. They were there at that point too, but they may look down upon you. They may say, you know what, you can get where I am right now, or surpass me. I really want this. Let me see.
Seeing what government regulations can do to you. We need to make sure, and that's what this president is doing. He's making sure that we are going to do away with some of the rules and regulations so that government doesn't get in your way of business anymore. And folks, let me be clear to you. This pin that I have on my lapel here, it's got 2 flags on it. It's got United States and it's got Israel. I support Israel. John Ossoff voted against sending arms 2 weeks ago to Israel. He does not support Israel, and he's Jewish. I can't understand it. John Ossoff does not represent the values of Georgians. He represents the values of AOC and of Bernie Sanders, not of Georgians. He wants to see males participating in girls' sports. Well, who would want that? I have 6 granddaughters. I don't want a biological male in their locker room. But John Ossoff does. He does not work for you. He works for they, them. I work for you. I'm running for the United States Senate. I'm working my ass off to get rid of Ossoff. That's what we're going to do. One last thing. I want to thank Vice President JD Vance for being here. But I want to thank Donald J. Trump for what he is doing for America. America first. We need someone in the United States Senate who's going to support Donald Trump and his America first policies. I've done that in the House. I'll do it in the Senate. He is negotiating peace. That's why I nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize, because he deserves it. He is the greatest negotiator of all times, and he is trying to get peace in Ukraine and Russia and in the Middle East. And he will do it. Thank all of you for being here. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Mike Collins.
Well, hello, Fayette County, and hello, Georgia. I want to thank Vice President JD Vance for his leadership and for just coming down to our state today. I had the opportunity to meet JD back when he was just JD on the campaign trail, probably about 3 years ago. I was up in Ohio campaigning. He was up there campaigning for the U.S. Senate, and it's odd how things work out in 3 years. But I want to talk to y'all about something. If for those of you that don't know me, I am Mike Collins. Y'all, I'm just old blue-collar, small businessman, conservative that was born, raised, still live and work over in Jackson, Georgia, in Butts County. I happen to represent the 10th District in Congress, and I tell you something. Back in 2015, a businessman named Donald J. Trump came along, and boy, he was saying everything that we were thinking. Y'all, that's enough is enough of this mess. He took on the political class. He stood up for the workers, the American workers, and y'all, he's put our country first. And here's what he did, the best thing that he did. He started running that place like a business up there. And I think we need more business people in Congress and in the U.S. Senate. And that big, beautiful bill that we passed not too long ago, y'all, it made history. That one bill changed the trajectory of this country, not just for weeks, months, or a couple of years, but for generations to come, for your great-grandkids, kids you'll never know. This was a huge historical bill. Matter of fact, it set small business on a path where they had clarity. At least they're not going to be taxed higher than corporations now. It also let them to be able to forecast with things like just bonus depreciation, which is so important to businesses like we have here. You know, it also gave American workers tax breaks. It made sure that the child care tax credit wasn't cut in half. It also helped our farmers. You know, it secured our border and made sure that these illegal aliens are not flooding across our country and these thugs like the one that murdered Laken Riley in my district. It also helps rebuild our military. I'm going to tell you, yes, ma'am. I'm going to tell y'all something. I believe in a strong military because I believe in peace through strength. Here's the personal thing about the big, beautiful bill. There's a thing in there called the 529 Savings Plan. It just allows you to spend your money to send your child to get a technical degree, like a commercial airline pilot or aircraft mechanic certificate. That happened to be my personal bill that we pushed, couldn't get into 118th, but by gosh, we got it in the big, beautiful bill. Now listen, y'all, here's the problem that we stand at right now, and that's over in the Senate with this liberal, woke John Ossoff. Y'all, he doesn't reflect Georgia values. No. And this guy is a trust fund kid. Never had a real job in his life. He doesn't know how to build a business, make decisions that have results. Matter of fact, he didn't vote for any of this. He doesn't stand for this. He comes down to the state of Georgia. He gives us lip service. And then what does he do? He goes back up there to D.C. and he votes with that woke, liberal, left-wing controlling group that he's under. Speaker Newt Gingrich hit it right, man. He is California's 3rd senator. Well, by God, I'm going to tell y'all something. Come November 2026, we are going to fire John Ossoff. I'm going to leave y'all with 2 quick things. Number 1, I'm sick and tired of these people out there saying we don't live in the greatest country in the world. Y'all, this is the best country in the world. We ought to be proud. We ought not walk around apologizing. We are the biggest and baddest on the block. This is America first through and through. If it's not good for Georgia, if it's not good for this country, you can count me out. Last thing, when that Senate race comes up, you need to make sure that you send a proven conservative workhorse with a record of getting results who's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with President Trump and Vice President JD Vance to make sure that we continue this America First agenda and we get this country back on track. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones.
How we doing, Fayette County? It is good to be here, and what a great crowd. And I want to thank the Brown family, Rex, Justin, and Eric. Where are you guys? Yeah, let's give them a big round of applause. Back there.
what an outstanding facility. I got to meet some of their folks that work here for them, and met a young lady that's been working here 30 years, another one 12 years, and you can tell that this is a family business that cares about their employees and cares about the American way. But born here, raised here, and also producing a great product right here in Fayette County, Georgia. Let's give them a big round of applause. I want to thank the two congressmen that came before us, my neighbor, Mike Collins, and also former colleague, Buddy Carter, right here. Also want to thank Coach Dooley. Coach Dooley, he doesn't remember this. He recruited me out of high school when he was at SMU. He didn't realize I didn't have much ability, so he didn't waste much time on me. But it's good to have both of them here. I know we have Secretary Loeffler. Kelly, where are you? Kelly, she's here today. Let's give Secretary Loeffler a big round of applause, too, as well. We have many House, State House, and Senate members here. I know I say Senator John Kennedy, Tim Bearden. I know I saw Representative Houston Gaines here, Beth Camp. I know y'all, all the State House and Senate members, stand up and be recognized here real quick, please. And I see former Congressman Drew Ferguson right here. Used to represent this district very well here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my good friend Brian Jack, Congressman Brian Jack, who's the congressman here today. So if I missed anybody, I apologize. I came in the back door, how they usually let me in on places. You know, they won't ever let me in the front. But it is great to be here. I'm Burt Jones. I'm Lieutenant Governor here of this great state, and I am I'm like the Brown family. I'm from a little small town over in Jackson, Georgia, and I have a family business there. I'm very proud of it, and I'm going to be running for governor because I want the great state of Georgia to continue to be a red state. So. We've had a lot of great strides here, a lot of things to be proud about. The #1 state to do business for the last 11 years. We've had unbelievable growth from an economic standpoint, from a population standpoint, and we want to keep going. And I could not be happier to have a partner right now in the Trump-Vance administration that we have right now here in our country. How about it? Let's give it up here. We have not had a sitting vice president come to this area of the state in 33 years. And so we want to thank Vice President Vance for being here today. I got to see him earlier today when he got off the airplane. He's excited about being here in Georgia. He's excited about promoting the big, beautiful bill. And because I'm excited because America's back, ladies and gentlemen. America's back. We're back on the domestic stage and putting America first, putting America jobs first, putting American industry first, and also securing our border. But more also, just as important, we're back on the world stage where people are fearing us through strength, through strength. And as your next governor, and I hope I can earn all of y'all's support, well, the things I'm going to focus on are going to be very simple. We're going to try to keep this economy running. We're going to try to keep us the #1 state to do business. And I want to do that by incentivizing people, by eliminating our state income tax. That's #1. We're going to prioritize education. We're going to prioritize skill-based education in our school system. We're going to prioritize public safety. I see my good sheriff from Coweta County there. We're going to be a law and order state. And we are going to be prioritizing Georgia workers and Georgia citizens here in this state. And we're going to promote companies just like this one today, because that is the backbone. Family businesses, small businesses is the backbone of our economy, and we want to incentivize them to strive here in the state of Georgia. And if I'm the governor, that will happen. I can promise you. So. This is a great opportunity, and I will tell you right now, somebody said, who's your competition? I said, I don't worry about competition. So I think you catch more fish watching your own cork. That's an old Georgia term, if you don't know that, by the way. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on earning your vote. And I was proud to have President Trump's endorsement last week. He said that, thank you very much. I've been with President Trump since he first came to the escalator way back in 2015, and I've never wavered from him. And he rewarded me by saying, you know, Bert, you've never asked for anything. When can I endorse you for governor? I said, now as good as any, Mr. President. So I appreciate that. But when the vice president gets on the stage, let's give him a great, warm welcome, a Georgia welcome, because it is such an honor to have him here today. I appreciate each and every one of y'all here. I appreciate the Round family. I look forward to seeing y'all on the campaign trail. God bless y'all, and God bless the great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Wow, what the heck did you guys do back here? Guys, everyone, welcome to Alta Refrigeration. Guys, what an honor. This is a monumental day as we celebrate significant progress with to continue to work together for a common goal. I've got one question for you guys though. Is everybody ready for this? Oh yeah. As somebody would say, this is going to be huge. All right, guys. When you walk through the door of Alta Refrigeration, you walk into something different. An organization built on the following principles. We stand for integrity. We work with competence. Actually, we work with experts. And we lead with compassion. And all of these things put together equal one thing, it's trust. That's what drives the Alta team, and quite frankly, guys, that's what drives me. And at the heart of it all, it's all about our employees and their families. This company isn't just machinery and piping, it's people. People who show up, people who give their all, people who do the right thing every day. Thank you, guys. And those values, integrity, competence, compassion, they're not just business values, they're American values. And these same values, our men and women in uniform fight for every single day. So if you've served in the U.S. military and are here today, please stand so we can honor you. You represent courage, honor, sacrifice, the best of America. Thank you guys for your service. But that same fighting spirit lives right here at Alta too. We fight for our employees. We fight for their families. We fight for their customers. We fight for the American values, and we fight for what's right. At Alta, we are a team. And when you're part of a team, you look out for each other. That's the American dream. That's what Alta is all about. And that, my friends, is what's happening today here. So let's not forget our customers, the backbone of this industry. Hardworking American businesses running cold storage warehouses, the ones who make sure food goes from the farm to the warehouse to your family's table. And those tables, they're not just for eating on, they're for conversations about faith, freedom, and family. This is where American values are passed down, and this is why what we do is so important. And today, guys, again, honored and stoked. This is a monumental moment for Alta Refrigeration, a company that works tirelessly for its employees, its customers, and community, while also making safe and sustainable decisions to protect our future. Now, I want to introduce someone very, very special. Someone who understands this fight, someone who has been in the trenches, someone who has worked side by side with someone named Donald J. Trump. Someone who is detailed, driven, dedicated to the people he serves. In my book, guys, this man is a rock star, and he is here with us today. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, this rock star is none other than our Congressman, Brian Jack.
Well, thank you, Eric, for that incredibly kind introduction. And before I begin, let's offer our appreciation and gratitude to the entire Alta Refrigeration team for hosting us at this historic event. Thank you. It has been 33 years since a vice president visited Fayette County. Some of y'all may remember. In 1992, February of 1992, Vice President Dan Quayle came to Fayette County. He visited Fayette County High School, and he went to Malier's Barbecue, for those of you who remember that wonderful place. In fact, Justin, Alta's incredible executive vice president, was there, and so too was our sheriff, Barry Babb. And 33 years later, we stand in one of the best places in our state to do business. The community we've built, the community we have built and the economic environment that we have created continue to invite investment from all across the world. And I'd like to acknowledge some of the local elected leaders who are responsible for this success. Fayette County Sheriff Barry Babb. Fayette County Judge Jason Thompson and his wife Alicia Thompson. Peachtree City Mayor Kim Leonard. Peachtree City Mayor Pro Tem, one of my good friends, Clint Holland. Peachtree City Councilwoman and someone who, along with Nancy Holland, is very responsible for the success of this event, Suzanne Brown. Peachtree City Councilwoman Laura Johnson. Former Peachtree City Mayor Steve Brown. Former Peachtree City Mayor and my first boss in politics, Harold Logston. Former Peachtree City Councilman Mike King. Tyrone Mayor, just up the road, Tyrone Mayor Eric Dial. Tyrone Councilwoman Jessica Whalen. This gentleman is the Dean of the Mayors of Fayette County. We've got Woolsey Mayor Gary Lagos. State Representative Karen Mafiak. And my predecessor, former Congressman Drew Ferguson. Now, if I can also ask all the brave men and women of our law enforcement to stand up so that we can acknowledge your service. Thank you for protecting our community. Fayette County is one of the best places in our state to do business, but Georgia is consistently ranked the #1 state in our country to do business. So I'd like to acknowledge some of the statewide elected officials who are here with us that have helped deliver that success. You just heard from him, our Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, who was recently endorsed by President Trump to be the next governor of our great state, Burt Jones. We have with us Labor Commissioner Barbara Rivera Holmes, Public Service Commissioner Fitz Johnson, who is up for re-election this year, and my incredible in Congress will start Georgia. Congressman Andrew Clyde, a United States Navy veteran. Congressman Rich McCormick, a United States veteran. And Congressman Mike Collins, our neighbor whose father, Mac, ably represented Peachtree City for 12 years. Mike Collins. Thank you also to Coach Derek Dooley for joining us. It is an honor today to welcome Vice President JD Vance, 2 members of President Trump's cabinet, Administrator Zeldin and Administrator Kelly Loeffler, to my hometown of Peachtree City. My career path started on Willow Bend Road at Peachtree City Hall, and that path eventually led me to the White House to serve the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, for 8 straight years. And when you work for President Trump for nearly a decade, you certainly learn a lot. And a lesson that I very much valued was the importance of promises made and promises kept. President Trump is the absolute best at this. He has single-handedly reoriented our electorate to present to elected officials a very simple equation. How many promises did you make and how many promises have you kept? And throughout my campaign for Congress, I made a consistent set of promises to each and every one of you. I promised to vote to make permanent the Trump tax cuts that were set to expire at the end of this year. I promised to vote to unleash America's energy potential by unlocking our vast lands for energy exploration. And I promised to vote to secure our southern border by providing the resources necessary to finally fund President Trump's border wall. And I, along with my colleagues here, delivered on every one of those promises by voting to pass and enact President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. I also promised to continue the historic deregulation that President Trump achieved during his first term. And one of my first actions in Congress was to fulfill this important pledge. Just down the road in Peachtree City is the corporate headquarters of Rinnai America Corporation. Rinnai builds tankless water heaters, and they do so at a state-of-the-art facility in Griffin. Their CEO, Frank Windsor, and their VP, Perry Meyer, are here in attendance today. And shortly after I was sworn in, Frank and Perry reached out and they explained they had a problem. You see, on December 26, 2024, the day after Christmas, when all of us were with our families, the Biden administration imposed a job-killing regulation on tankless water heaters that would have effectively closed a factory in our district. Hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars in investment in our community could have been lost. Rinnai asked me for help, and I got to work. So in January, my colleagues and I introduced legislation that repealed that Biden regulation. In February, House leadership put our legislation on the floor, and it earned a bipartisan majority as it passed. In April, the United States Senate passed it, and in May, I stood by President Trump in the Oval Office as he signed into law our legislation that repealed a job-killing Biden regulation and saved hundreds of jobs in our community. Because of this success, the leadership here at ALTA reached out to me and said they had their own challenges they needed help navigating. And again, I got to work. You see, in 2023, the Biden administration imposed a sweeping set of accelerated regulations on the refrigeration industry. The regulations very specifically targeted the cold storage warehouses that are manufactured here in this facility. And if these regulations go into effect next year, the cost of production would be 2 to 3 times higher than what it is today. My team and I continue to work diligently with the incredible staff of President Trump's and Administrator Zeldin's Environmental Protection Agency to support the 150 hardworking Georgians at ALTA, and I look forward to delivering regulatory relief to each and every one of you today. When I ran for Congress, I didn't necessarily expect to be a congressional champion for commercial appliances, but deregulation across our community is a promise I made and a promise I kept. A final promise I made to you, the citizens of our district, was to invite America's leaders to our part of Georgia to see firsthand the incredible things happening in Georgia's 3rd congressional district. During my campaign for the Republican nomination, we had Ben Carson, Jim Jordan, and Carrie Lake visit. Last October, President Trump hosted an event in the 3rd congressional district for the first time in his political career. In April, our wonderful small business administrator, Kelly Loeffler, joined me for a small business tour in Troup County. In May, the Secretary of Energy joined me at Renai's tankless water heater plant in Griffin to celebrate our legislative success. And today we welcome the 50th Vice President of the United States and 2 members of President Trump's cabinet to Peachtree City. The Vice President will be here soon, and when he arrives, let's give him our absolute warmest welcome and loudest welcome from Georgia's 3rd congressional district. If you like tax cuts, safe streets, and cheaper gas prices, you're going to like what he has to say. And now I'd like to introduce a very dear friend. She was an incredible United States Senator. She is a smart businesswoman who has devoted so much time and so many resources to so many of us in this room to ensure our state is positioned for a better future. And she is now a key member of President Trump's cabinet. Let us welcome the Administrator of the Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you for packing the house for our great Vice President JD Vance. I am so honored to be with y'all. I actually flew in from Ohio this morning, our Vice President's home state, where I got to drive a dump truck this morning. That was the best time. Oh my gosh. First of all, I want to make sure that you know that your great Congressman, Brian Jack, here in the 3rd District, is fighting for you every day. I know he's been called a rock star. Now I want to call him the real deal. This guy's fighting for you. Let's give him a hand. I'll tell you someone else who's fighting for you, President Trump. In just 7 months, he has achieved so much. He's restored common sense to this country. He's closed the border. How about that? He's returned to Made in America. That's huge. He ended woke DEI and the Green New Deal. He got boys out of girls' sports. In fact, President Trump has done every single thing that the last administration said was impossible. Well, of course it's impossible when you're sleeping on a beach and the auto pen is running wild. President Trump has not only restored hard work to the White House, he's restored decency, and he's restoring strength and economic growth in this country. So whether it's drill baby drill or ending rampant Bidenflation, this president gets more done in 1 week than the last administration got done in an entire year. Yeah. He's just like all of you, the hardest working guy in the business. Now, if that's not enough, he spends his weekends negotiating trade deals, and he spends his weekends also negotiating world peace. Now, if he doesn't get the Nobel Peace Prize for that, he should definitely get the Peace Prize for restoring sanity and safety in Washington, D.C. And look, President Trump does it all for hardworking people like everyone that's here today. And that includes small business owners like the Browns here at Alta Refrigeration, small businesses that have been crushed by massive regulation, the threat of taxes, Bidenflation, and the list goes on. And it's why the president and congressional Republicans moved so quickly to pass the largest working family tax cut in American history. This is a bill that was for Main Street. It's for families, it's for students, it's for seniors. It's unleashing an unprecedented era of prosperity in this great nation. This economic agenda is rocket fuel for Main Street. I have seen it firsthand. I have been in 24 states so far, and I have talked to manufacturers who are spring-loaded for growth with 100% expensing for Made in America. I've talked to welders and mechanics who are going to take on more hours thanks to no tax on overtime. What a concept. Yes. I've visited with barbers. I've talked to waitresses. They're going to take on more shifts because of no tax on tips. And I have talked with working families right here in Georgia who are going to take home $10,000 more every single year because of the One Big Beautiful Bill. You know, and this bill is proof that President Trump believes in the American worker. He believes in American industry, not in Washington bureaucracy, because the fact is, for too long, for way too long, the bureaucrats in Washington have told you that you work for them. Those days are over. This government works for you. So I'll wrap up with this. This is the bottom line. Every single congressional Democrat voted for a $4 trillion tax increase on you. That includes 2 senators from right here in Georgia. We won't forget those votes, but they won't stop this powerful economic agenda. That's right, because President Trump and Vice President Vance are only getting started. They understand that it's not about making sure Americans aren't left behind. It's about putting Americans first. And my friends, that is how you make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, everyone.
Our Vice President JD Vance. Yeah. Listen, it has been an honor to serve in that Trump-Vance cabinet and the administration over the course of 2025. We inherited a very big mess at the Environmental Protection Agency, but we are fixing everything. We've chosen to both protect the environment and grow the economy. What a concept. We can do both. Just over the course of this year, we have now canceled over $29 billion worth of grants, 18 million in real estate consolidations, a million in canceled media subscriptions. Sorry, guys in the back. $750 million saved in salary staff reductions. We are doing this with a zero tolerance policy for any waste and abuse because we care about protecting your precious hard-earned tax dollars each and every day that we are on this job fighting for you. The One Big Beautiful Bill that Congress just passed and President Trump just signed ended up rescinding billions of dollars in green slush funds that were going towards the friends of the last administration. Former Biden and Obama administration officials, unqualified recipients, self-dealing, conflicts of interest, reduced agency oversight under the banner of climate alarmism through policies and through money. They have taken this agency and this government in the wrong direction. And each of us, we inherited our own messes, but we are motivated for you, understanding what the Trump-Vance mandate is, what the American public voted for last November, and we are committed to doing everything in our power every single day to fight for you and to make you proud. Is President Trump and JD Vance making you proud every day that they're in office? Oh, yeah. It's an honor to serve alongside them. At the Environmental Protection Agency, we are doing more deregulation in 1 year than entire federal governments across all agencies, across entire presidencies. That's how much deregulation we're doing. We're doing the largest deregulation in American history, and proud of it. Last week, I was in Iowa with our great administrator, Kelly Loeffler, and we made an announcement along with the Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, because we heard from Georgia's farmers and others about diesel exhaust fluid and the need to reverse the crazy deratement. So we made that announcement on behalf of Georgia and Iowa and across this country to reverse the death derangement. We're getting your water to flow more. We're getting your gas cans to flow faster. We're going to stop those annoying start-stop features on your car. We hear from the American public about what matters to you, and whatever matters to you matters to us, and we will fight hard for you every single day. Now, JD Vance has been an amazing leader, proud to call him a friend. He's a Marine. He's someone who would give up his life in defense of this country. He loves our flag. He cherishes our freedom and our liberty. Our nation is stronger because JD Vance is our vice president. Our nation is safer because JD Vance is our vice president. He is courageous. He is wise. He is battle-tested, and he is ready. He is our America First messenger, not just in his words, but also in his deeds. For all of us as Americans, when we go to sleep at night, we put our head down on the pillow. We're able to rest easier when we send the right people to office to fight for us. And your Congressman, Brian Jack, by the way, is doing an amazing job fighting for all of you. And we're grateful to Alta Refrigeration. And as I was just discussing with our vice president backstage, we at the Trump administration are heeding the call of Alta Refrigeration. See, there was a new regulation called the Technology Transition Rule that came out, and they were getting rid of all different kinds of access to refrigerants where costs were going up, supply was going down. It was costing more to be able to fix that system. And Alta Refrigeration and grocery stores and the semiconductor industry and residents all across America were speaking about the impacts of this rule. So once again, here we are every day, another decision, another dollar, another moment, another opportunity to fight for you. We're here to announce that in the coming days, we will be releasing a proposal that will fix this mistake of the technology transition rule. We will deliver on what Alta Refrigeration has been asking for and demanding from this federal government, and we will deliver for Georgians who are tired of being sick and tired of people who aren't representing them. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you a warrior, a patriot, a leader, a friend, somebody who we can trust, somebody who fights for us when we see him fighting on our behalf, but also is fighting hard for us when we don't see him in front of us. Ladies and gentlemen, all day, every day, JD Vance and his team understand what's at stake for America. He is doing his part. The Trump administration is doing their part with the great help, the fearless leadership and determination of this man, our next speaker. Give it up for our great vice president, our Marine, JD Vance.
Brought to your courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Justice will be served and the battle will rage.
How we doing, Georgia? Thank you. Please, it's great to be in Peachtree City, and I gotta say, you guys have got a hell of a congressman. We love Brian Jack here in the 3rd District of Georgia. Thank you, Brian.
Now, we got a few other people. I want to thank, of course, the great EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Lee, thank you so much. And proud Atlanta native Kelly Loeffler, thank you for all you're doing at the Small Business Administration. All right, you guys are lucky to have a great Trump-endorsed Lieutenant Governor Burt. Burt, good to see you, man. How we doing? Burt greeted me on the tarmac today. He had been on the tarmac, I think, for a few minutes because he was sweating bullets. And that hot Atlanta sun, I felt bad for him. But Burt, think you're going to make a great governor for the state of Georgia, and we're with you every step of the way. Now, I understand we got a little preview. This is my idea. A little preview of the Senate race here in the great state of Georgia. How'd they do, ladies and gentlemen? Do good? Well, let me thank Coach Derek Dooley. Derek, thank you for being here. Let me thank Representative Buddy Carter. Buddy, thank you. Good to see you, man. And, of course, the great Mike Collins. Mike, thank you for everything that you do. It's good to see you, man. Now, here's the thing. We're at a great American facility. I want to thank these great workers behind me. I feel bad for these guys because they got to stay up the whole time I'm talking. You guys get to take a seat, and boys, strap in, because we're going to be up here for about 3 hours. You give a politician a microphone, and it's always tough. Boys and girls. We've got a few ladies back there, too. But here's the thing. This facility, this manufacturing plant represents what makes America great. Because the products that you build, the jobs created here, the ingenuity and the technology and the development and all the things that actually make America run are built right here at this incredible facility. So to the workers, and thanks to the people who make this facility run. Now, I heard something before I went on, because there's this big refrigerator right behind me, right? And somebody told me it was 13 tons. Is that right? That's a big refrigerator. Now, am I also right that a lot of the products that you guys make go into Chick-fil-A? Is that right? Okay, I know it's a great Atlanta company, but as a customer, a frequent customer at Chick-fil-A, I've got a personal connection because you guys make a great American company run, and that's what I love about this country. When you guys make a great product, it enables more great products to be made. That creates more jobs for our people. That creates more American innovation, and it creates more prosperity for the American worker. And I'm here, of course, as a representative of the President of the United States that has done more for the prosperity of the American worker than any president in a generation. So can we give it up for President Donald J. Trump, because I know he's watching. And I know what the president ran on, and what the president cares about is building things right here in the United States of America. It's another reason why I'm proud to be at Alta today. Because for a generation in this country, we had American presidents and American political leaders. And let's be honest, folks, it wasn't just Democrats. It was Democrats and Republicans who would ship our jobs overseas, close our factory doors, and do not a damn thing for the American worker. So how nice is it in Washington, D.C. to have a government that is going to protect your jobs, that's going to fight for this facility and say, very simply, if you're building it here, if you're making it here, if you're producing it here, we are going to give you, and already have given you, a big fat tax cut. That's a good thing. But if you take it overseas, if you try to do something with a foreign worker as opposed to an American worker, if you try to ship our great American jobs and great American factories overseas, then you are going to pay a big fat tariff before you bring that crap back into the United States of America. And that's what President Trump's economic policies are all about, my friends. It's the carrot and the stick. We want to make it easier to build in America. We want to make it harder to build overseas. We want to make it easier to rely on our great American workers, because we got a lot of them. American businesses ought to employ American workers. and we want to make it harder to employ foreigners to take those jobs from the Americans who deserve them. And most importantly, if you're working hard every single day right here in the United States, or if you're building a business right here in the United States, you ought to have a tax code that rewards you instead of punishes you. And that's what happened when we passed the working families tax cut just a couple of months ago. And of course, Brian Jack was a critical part of that. So you should be proud of your congressman. Now, what does this law mean? What this law means for you is that your take-home pay is going to go up over $10,000 over the next few years. What that means is that if you're working an hour of overtime, the federal government is going to keep its money the hell out of your pocket. Because if you're working hard, the government ought to leave the truth. Do we have any single moms out there? Any single dads? Any people who work hard every single day? I had a single mom, and for a time, my mom worked at a restaurant. She waited tables, like a lot of folks out there. And you know what we did in this new law? We said that if you're working hard and you're making your income via tips, we are not going to tax tips anymore, because we want to give everybody out there that's working hard for those tips a little bit of relief. And that's what the working families tax cut did. No matter where you are in this country, if you're working hard and play by the rules, you ought to get a government that stands up for you instead of fights against you. That's why we increased. Every single day that see the future of the state of Georgia, and in about a year, you are not going to be able to turn on the television without Senator John Ossoff pretending that he supported the working families tax cut when in reality, he voted against it. And I saw a TV clip of him today. You know why he said he voted against no taxes on overtimes? You know why he said he voted against no taxes on tips? You know why he said that he voted to raise your taxes by the biggest amount in a generation in this country? Because he's allegedly worried about people getting kicked off their health care. Well, you know what? The President of the United States made a promise, a sacred promise, that the only people who are going to lose access to health care are illegal aliens who shouldn't be in this country to begin with. Because I happen to believe that Medicaid belongs to American workers and American families. I happen to believe that when you are struggling in this country, we're generous people and we want to help you. But we want to help the people who have the legal right to be in the United States of America. So it's not about kicking people off of health care. It's about kicking illegal aliens the hell out of this country so that we can preserve health care for the American families who need it. And that's what the Democrats never talk about. That's what they'll never tell you. They'll say, well, Republicans want to do this to health care. They want to do that. They want to do all these terrible things. When in reality, if you look at what the Democrats have done, what they've tried to do is to allow millions and millions of illegal aliens into this country, to give them benefits that ought go by right to American citizens, and then to attack Republicans when we dare to stand up for the American citizens who have the right to be here. So when you watch those TV commercials in a year, and John Ossoff, I tell you, he's going to pretend to be a reasonable moderate. He's actually going to run TV advertisements, I promise you, because I ran against a guy like this in the state of Ohio, where he says that he supported President Trump's agenda. But in reality, while John Ossoff pretends to be a moderate when he comes to Atlanta, he is a far left liberal in Washington, D.C., and that's the only place that it actually counts if you're a United States senator. So why don't we ask John Ossoff, why did you vote to raise taxes? Why did you vote to keep illegal aliens on Medicaid? Why did you vote to bankrupt Medicare? Why did you vote to make sure that people who work overtime and earn their income from tips pay as much to the federal government as possible? And the simple answer is because John Ossoff, whatever he pretends to be in his television commercials, he doesn't give a damn about the 3rd District, and he doesn't give a damn about the people of Georgia, but we do, and we're going to fight for you every single day. Let me just leave you, my friends, with a final thought. I want to thank you all for being out here. And again, thank the folks behind me, the great workers of this facility. And I'll take a few questions. Should I take a few questions from the media? Okay, I'll do that. So we'll take a few questions from our great reporters, hopefully some local reporters back there, but I'm sure some national fake news as well. But, you know, I went to Union Station in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Anybody here ever been to Union Station? Okay. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, really a monument to American greatness. I was walking around, I was looking up at it, these beautiful high ceilings. It looks like something out of a fairy tale. And I remember that 2 years ago, when I took my kids to Washington's D.C.'s Union Station, I actually had a crazy person screaming at my 3-year-old kid because for some reason, and I never understood this, American leaders decided it was compassionate to allow people to fester on the streets, yelling at our young families instead of giving them the medical care that they need and getting them off the streets, which, by the way, makes it easier for us to all enjoy these great public spaces in our country. And I haven't been to Atlanta in a little while, at least now with the Secret Service detail. I haven't walked around Atlanta in a little while, but I bet that as great as Atlanta is, and as beautiful of an American city as it is, there are places in Atlanta where you wouldn't take your family today. Is that correct? Just like in Washington, D.C., the national capital of the greatest nation in the history of the world, there are no-go zones where you would not take a young family or you would not take young children. And that's true, I'm sure, all across the state of Georgia, all across our country, because our leaders decided that they would make our streets safe for criminals instead of safe for the people who pay our taxes and keep our communities going. And I think that of all the things that I'm most proud of the president, the thing that I'm most proud about is that he finally put the government to work for the people who actually make this country function and run in the first place. We're cutting taxes for American taxpayers. We're securing the border. We've got 99% reduction in illegal border crossings in this country because we got a president who empowered Border Patrol to keep us safe. And we got a president who's standing with law enforcement to make it easier to clean up our streets, to make them safe for our young families. If you're a person, I don't care what your political party is, but if you're a family and you want to take your kid to a nice meal in downtown Atlanta, it's about a 40-minute drive. Take your kid to a nice meal in downtown Atlanta, you ought to be able to without being harassed by a criminal. We got to take America's streets back for the American people, and that's what the President of the United States is doing every single day. And as a person who grew up in a family where we often struggled with money, you know, it is never the rich people that lack public safety in this country. When we go to war against our cops, when we flood the border with illegal immigration, when we close down great American factories, it is the people the Bible calls the least of us that struggle the most and hurt the most. So I'm proud to be here as your vice president. I'm proud to be here as a representative of President Trump. Thank you. But I'm most proud that we have an administration that is making it easier, whether you're rich or poor, to walk down the street with a semblance of public safety. I'm most proud that we're fighting for the jobs of the people behind me and the jobs of every single working person in this country, and we're fighting to make sure that you pay low taxes instead of a bunch of garbage to the federal government. I'm proud that we serve an administration that cares more about American citizens and our public safety than giving Medicaid and Medicare to illegal aliens, which is what John Ossoff wants to do. In other words, I'm proud that the kind of family that made me who I am finally has a representative and a fighter in Washington, D.C. I promise you, we'll keep on fighting for you every step of the way. God bless you, and thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to get the same chant from the fake news media, do you? But we'll let them ask some questions anyway. Let's take a few questions back there from the rafters. I would prefer to take at least a few local media questions first, and then we can get to the national folks. Semper Fi, sir. God bless you. I think we have a microphone back there. If we could pass around. Sir, go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I'm Richard Elliott with WSB TV here in Atlanta. You've heard the criticism from Democrats that making the Trump tax cuts permanent comes at a cost to Medicare, SNAP benefits, and other things like that. How would you answer some of those criticisms by the Democrats?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question. Look, there are a couple of responses to that criticism. First of all, the only people that we say should not get free government health care benefits are illegal aliens and those who refuse to try to even look for a job. It's very common sense. We want, and look, we are going to bankrupt this country if we keep on giving the people's benefits, the people's Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security benefits to illegal aliens who have no legal right to be in this country and never paid into the system to begin with. That is never the design of those programs, is to give them to every person all over the world. They ought by right to belong to the American citizens who paid into those programs to begin with. And that's what we're fighting to make sure happens. And the second response I'd say to that is look, we did a lot in this legislation. Brian worked on it. The other representatives here worked very hard on this to make sure that a lot of our rural hospitals are struggling because of some of the policies of the Biden administration. So what we did is we put a lot of resources and a lot of changes in regulations to make it possible for our rural hospitals to stay open despite what the Biden administration did to them for 4 years. So our policy is very simple. Whether you're in a big city or a small town, we're going to fight for your access to health care. Whether you're an American citizen who's been here for 70 years or an American citizen who's been here for 2 years, we're going to fight for your access to a government that serves you. But if you're an illegal alien, you do not deserve government-paid health care benefits. You need to get out of our country, and that's as simple as that. Next question.
Mr. Vice President, Greg Bluestein with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thanks for being here. I have a follow-up to Richard's great question on those healthcare funding cuts. There are Georgia Republican leaders who are legitimately concerned that more than 100,000 people could be knocked off the Medicaid rolls, not just people who are here undocumented or illegally, but people who are working class, who are struggling to get their health care. What message do you have for state Republican leaders on what they should do to reconcile those issues?
Well, the first thing I'd say is the state Republican leaders and frankly, state Democratic leaders, if you're worried about American citizens losing access to health care, the Trump administration always has an open door policy. And we've worked with a number of our colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, at the federal legislature, but also at the state level to make it possible to ensure that American citizens have access to the medical benefits that they need. It's as simple as that. So you're always going to have an open door. Now, we understand that reforms are complicated. Sometimes this stuff takes time to work itself through the system. Many of the changes in the working families tax cuts to Medicare, or excuse me, to Medicaid, you're not going to see that stuff. It's not even, some of it doesn't even go to effect for 6 or 7 years, in part because we want to give enough time to work with people to make sure that American citizens do not lose access to those critical benefits. So if you look at the way we design the law, if you look at the way that those reforms are implemented, and if you look at all the other things that we're doing, we want to work with people to make sure that American citizens get what they're entitled to. What we do not want is people who have no legal right to be here, to benefit from the generosity of the American taxpayer, and to bankrupt those programs. So long as you're willing to work with us on those goals, we'll work with anybody, whether you got a D or an R next to your name, because we care about this country. We want to make sure it's secure and healthy. Next question. We had a couple hands back here, but okay, we got a school back there. Okay, well, let's get them a microphone.
My name is Virgil Garrett. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Of course, thank you.
I'm here with the Central Educational Center, CCS TV. The CEC is a college and career academy focused on training high school students to enter technical and trade industries. Can you tell us how the big, beautiful bill will impact us and our prospective jobs? And also, how is the administration focusing on schools like ours?
So tell me, you say your name was Virgil? Virgil, tell me a little bit more about your school.
So, Central Educational Center, we have classes focusing on trade and other industries. We have audio, video, aviation, cosmetology, dentistry, and students have
Got
the
it.
option.
Okay, thank you. He asked me, Virgil, you asked me to comment on the school. I figured I should learn a little bit about it. I should learn a little bit about it before I commented on it, but I appreciate the clarification there. I mean, our proposal and our principle in the Trump administration is quite simple. We want Americans to be able to pursue their American dream. Whether that means going to a trade school or going to a four-year education, going to the military, we want to give you as many options as possible. And what happened for a long time in this country is that you had both parties, both sets of leaders saying, no, 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 no. The only pathway that we're going to fund, the only pathway we're going to help you with is if you want to get a four-year degree. If you want to get a four-year degree, great. But if you want to be a plumber or an electrician or a pipe fitter, your government ought to fight for you too. And that's exactly what we want to make happen. And I do, you know, Virgil, part of that is policy. Part of that is making sure that things like Pell Grants and other federal benefits, they don't pick and choose. They don't discriminate against our great trade schools. But part of that is leadership. And I think it's important for those of us who are in positions of leadership to say that, you know, there are so many great careers that require you use your hands and your head at the same time, where you can earn a great living. You can build something great for your fellow citizens and people in your community. We're not going to have enough housing. We're not going to have plumbing that works. We're not going to have lights that turn on unless we've got enough people going into our trade schools. We got to have more kids doing it, more young people doing it, because they're the ones building the American dream of homeownership. They're the ones building the future, and we're going to fight for you every step of the way. Thank you for your question, Virgil. And let's do a few more questions here, and then I'm going to have to hit the road. Sir. Where
Good
have we got a
afternoon,
microphone?
Vice President, Raul Valley, WABE Radio here in Atlanta. Wanted to ask you about something, your final topic on safety. Do you see the administration putting soldiers in the city of Atlanta?
Well, look, what we've done is we have focused on Washington, D.C. because it's a federal city under our jurisdiction, but we certainly hope that whether it's Atlanta or anywhere else, people are going to look around and say, we don't have to live like this. It turns out if you just go and arrest the bad guys, you can have cities and streets that are safe again. And we hope that people see what we're doing in Washington, D.C. and follow our example all across the country. I'm a big fan. Look, I grew up in a small town. I love our beautiful countryside and our rural areas, but I love our big cities too. And I want you to be able to go shopping or go and get a nice meal with your family without the fear that you're going to get mugged or even worse, because you have the audacity to take your family out for a day in one of our great American cities. We don't have to live like this. All we need is politicians who actually care more about public safety for American citizens than they do for violent criminals. In Washington, D.C., in 10 days of what Donald Trump has done in Washington, D.C., did you know armed robberies are down 55% in our nation's capital? It's amazing. You know, murders in Washington, D.C. are down over 35%. Again, that's in a week and a half of just taking crime seriously. And And there's something, you know, Democrats had this weird sickness in the head 5-6 years ago where they decided that all law enforcement was racist. You know who suffers the most, especially in our urban areas, when you don't allow the police to enforce the laws against bad guys? It is the good citizens, disproportionately black Atlantans, who suffer the most from high violent crime, because you've got more, or at least a disproportionate number of black Georgians living in Atlanta compared to other places. So when you empower police to prosecute violent criminals, that's not racism, that's empowering everybody, black or white, to live safely in their communities. And that should be the God-given right of every American citizen to walk down the street in safety and comfort. God bless you, sir.
Reardon with Atlanta News First. I know you're here to talk about business and manufacturing. I wanted to ask you about the spending bill's impact on individuals. There was a nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office report that came out last week showing that
in safety and comfort. God bless you, sir. Next question.
President, thank you for answering our questions. I'm Doug Reardon with Atlanta News First. I know you're here to talk about business and manufacturing. I wanted to ask you about the spending bill's impact on individuals. There was a nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office report that came out last week showing that the bottom 10%, the poorest Americans, would lose about $1,200, a year on their income, while the top 10%, they would add about $13,000 annually to their income. Can you justify for those poorest Americans those differences?
Well, first of all, the Congressional Budget Office, sometimes they put out reports that are absolutely atrocious, and I think this is a good example of a very atrocious report. The most important thing for people who are living at the bottom of the income ladder is that they not pay taxes on their income sources. So if you're working hard and you're working overtime, you're going to get a big fat tax cut. If you're working at a restaurant or some other business where you're earning your wages primarily through tips, you're going to get a big fat tax cut. And most importantly, the president's economic policies are going to prevent your job from being shipped off to Asia or to Mexico. That is the very best thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder. And that's why we have the economic policies that we do. If you go back 50, 60 years, what is the fastest period for blue collar wages rising in the United States of America? It is the time that we are living in right now, thanks to the economic policies of Donald J. Trump. You know what the worst thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder is? It's when you flood the country with millions upon millions of illegal aliens and force our poor Americans to compete for jobs against low-wage foreigners who don't even have the legal right to be here. That is what destroys the wages and the livelihoods of people who are struggling in this country. We want to empower them to live the American dream. That's why we're protecting their jobs, lowering their taxes, and fighting to make their country safe again. And I'll do one more question.
Sir, I'm George Cheedy. I write for The Guardian. I live in a small town, less than 1,000 people. I'm also a military veteran. I am a disclose trained killer just like you.
Thank you for your service, George.
In 1996 in Atlanta, when the Olympics was coming through, Atlanta very famously rounded up people who were homeless on the street downtown, bought them bus tickets, and sent them out of town and often out of state. There's a lot of negative sentiment about that later. It's one of the things that people remember. I am concerned that in the press to eliminate encampments in DC, something similar to that is happening. What is happening to the people who are homeless, often poor, often have a mental health problem or a drug problem? Where are they actually going when these encampments are being broken?
So first of all, George, I was 12 years old when the 1996 Summer Games happened in Atlanta, so I don't remember exactly the background there. I was worried about football and fishing and doing all the things that a 12-year-old in southwestern Ohio was worried about. But I think that the question betrays a certain misunderstanding of what we're trying to do and what is the nature of real compassion. I talked earlier about my son at being harassed at Union Station a couple of years ago. Now, first, as a father, you have some vagrant screaming crazy stuff. I'm sure a lot of us have had this experience where you have some vagrant screaming crazy stuff at your 3-year-old. As a father, my first reaction is grab my son closer, make sure that he's safe. Okay, then you realize the person's not going to maybe run and charge and attack us. We'll just keep our distance. But then you think, wait a second, why have we convinced ourselves that it's compassionate to allow a person who's obviously a schizophrenic or suffering from some other mental illness? Why is it compassionate to let that person fester in the streets? You see them, they're you know, a lot of them have clear mental health issues. A lot of them have clear physical health issues. They're not properly clothed. They're not properly cared for. Some of them are wasting away. The compassionate thing is to have people who are having mental health crises, to get them in treatment, not to let them sit on the streets and yell at our people while they're walking by. And so the president actually signed an executive order to make it easier for some of these people to get access to mental health treatment. And I don't know for the life of me what happened in this country where we decided that the compassionate thing was to let somebody fester on the streets instead of get the treatment that they need. It's very simple to me. And I don't know why we accept it as parents and as grandparents and as people who just want to walk down the street in comfort, why we accepted that it was reasonable to have crazy people yelling at our kids. You should not have to cross the street in downtown Atlanta to avoid a crazy person yelling at your family. Those are your streets, paid for with your tax dollars, and you ought to be able to use them like any other citizen of this country. So let me close. I know I said that was the last question, so let me just close with this thought. You know, there are a number of things I could say about President Trump's leadership and a number of things I could say about what we're trying to accomplish in the Trump administration. Put very simply, we're trying to make America great for Americans again. When you hear that phrase, make America great, we want you as a taxpayer, as a worker, as a business owner, we want you to be able to enjoy the incredible benefits and bounty of the United States of America. This country was built by your grandparents, by your parents, by your forebears. You ought to have the right to live a good life in this country that wouldn't even exist were it not for the hard work of so many generations who came before us. They didn't put in that work. They didn't build this great country. They didn't carve the greatest civilization in the history of the world out of a wilderness so that their ancestors and their descendants could see it fall into disrepair. They did not build, look at Atlanta. It's a beautiful city. It's one of the most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. The people who built Atlanta did not build it so that you would not be able to walk down the streets of Atlanta safely at night. They built it so that you could enjoy it. They built this country so that we could make an even greater America out of it. And the policies of the Trump administration are meant for one simple reason: to empower you to live a great life in this country that all of us love. We've got a lot of work done in the last 7 months. We're going to do a hell of a lot more work in the next 3.5 years, and we're going to fight for you every single step of the way. God bless you, and thank you for having me here in Peachtree City.
So there you have it. That's it. That's the whole shebang-a-bang. But I have just a few things to talk about. I wanted to say how he had the tax cuts. You don't have to have tax cuts if there are no taxes. So there should be no income taxes. They're saying you get a $10,000 big fat check and don't tax income. It's that simple. No income taxes and we'll be all right. That's the key. That's what they don't want you to know, is that there can be taxes without income taxes. Consumption taxes, okay, I'll allow that. I'll say there could be consumption taxes or on contracts, like if you're buying a house, you're signing over rights to that house for the government to protect it, to do all certain things that would constitute making sure that it's protected against fire and robbery or anything that's disparaging to your household, that's fine. I have no problem with that. There's no problem with those kind of taxes. That's a tax. That's really just what Ayn Rand would say is a payment for governmental services. That's all that taxes are. And the thing with taxes is, I've said this on previous occasions, is the fact that you have people that are always whining and crying and complaining about their taxes. Well, vote for people that are for eliminating taxes, not reducing taxes, but fully eliminating income taxes, all income taxes, and then shrinking government in size and scope to a level where it's only you're paying for law courts, military, and police. That's it. Government is really cheap. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take a lot of money to run a government. And there's millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in this country. Hundreds of millions of people in this country. If they were to continue on with consumption tax and just pay and put on the internet a page where it clearly states everyone that hasn't paid their taxes, you would shun them, you would ostracize them, you would take them and never do business with them. You will not cut their hair. You will not provide them with groceries. You will not provide them with legal services. You will not do anything. You will not do their plumbing. You will not do their electricity. None of it. You would not associate with them in any way at all. Rick James says this episode of Morning Sky may be the most important of all time. Fact. That's a really big statement. It's one of my longest hours. I've been on here for 6 hours before during the Diddy case. I was on for 6 hours. But yeah, I kept on getting jammed up with the videos. I was like, what the hell? The first one was I might get a copyright notification because that seemed like a private organization and wasn't fair use. Then I tried PBS and I thought PBS was good, and then it started going bad. Then I was like, why don't I just go to the White House? And the White House was a pretty good feed. It made it real. It had people's heads and it looked like a huge American flag, before. Now it just looks kind of like regular standard size flag. But yeah, so JD Vance, just a few things. Places in ATL and in DC, talking about Atlanta and District of Columbia. He was really hesitant. He was like, should I say black people? Should I say it? I say it. It should be for black and white people. He always excludes red, brown, and yellow. I don't know why. His wife is red, so it's a weird thing. She's reddish brown, I guess. I don't know. Red brown. I don't know. She's Indian. She's red dot, not feather. Yeah, he always says black and white. So anyway, and he continues to go back to this saying how his child was verbally disparaged from a vagrant while he was going through Union City. He says this over and over and over and over. Well, I'm going by her skin color, sir. I'm not going by her religion, her faith-based affiliation. I like JD Vance, but I don't love JD Vance. He's a white man in America. I don't love JD Vance. I think he's one of the worst politicians ever, one of the worst people ever. He's very evil, and he knows it, but he doesn't show it in a sense. I don't know. He knows that he's evil and he's vicious, but he doesn't really he doesn't make efforts to show it. He tries to show in that veneer. He's a classic politician. He's like, I want to agree with everybody, but then I'll have my own way of saying, I don't agree with this and don't agree with that point. But Rick James, I disagree with you. What do you disagree with me about? I said the truth. I'm not making this stuff up. But anyway, so that was the entirety of the JD Vance speech. I just got really fortunate because I was just doing a piece on him from yesterday, and I didn't even know he was going to be speaking live today in Atlanta. But and then they were talking about the refrigeration companies. Like, it was kind of strange. It was weird. And then they have these huge words on the side saying jobs and huge exclamation and all caps and like size, I don't know, 80 font, like, or maybe more, maybe like 200 or 300 font, maybe, or 1,000 font. I don't know what font it was, but it was jobs, 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 jobs. And they had like the workers, they're just sitting there with their hands clasped. One guy had his hands behind his back. I think that was a Kamala voter. It's a black guy. I'm just gonna, try to marginalize him. I don't think he voted for Trump. I'll never know, but it just seemed as though. But yeah, so I just wanted to give that amount. As we approach the 4-hour mark, I thank everybody that came in. I really do appreciate it. We should get a good turnout of views. I lost a subscriber, but I think I'm going to gain some subscribers. I appreciate everybody that does subscribe and does tell people, hey, you got to watch this silly nigga named Sky. All right, so now I'm going to just do my I want to say banners because I just saw the word banners, but they're advertising my sponsors. Visit .focus_ on his YouTube channel and subscribe, like, and comment. If you enjoy Call of Duty and other first-person shooters, you will not be disappointed. Tell him that Silly Sky sent you. Also, visit LifeStrongApparel.com, LIFESTRONGAPPAREL.com for your raw CMOS needs. Also, after making your selections, type in SKYLER20 Skyler 20 as a promo to receive 20% off your purchases. Tell Mr. Pang Silly Sky sent you. And finally, visit Bayha Jackson's YouTube page and subscribe to learn more about sardines on the grill, fried chicken, near beer, and female strippers. Tell him Silly Sky sent you in the comments. And I thank you all. If you feel so inclined, go to Venmo, put in at SKYLERIZED Skylerized, and make sure you put that in and just donate whatever you can. $5 more is great. I appreciate it. And I had fun today. It was a long day, but it was still fun. Rick James is going hard. .focus for the games and aim pause. Yummy gummies and CMOS. What's not to like? Sardines on the grill, near beer, and hookers. No. Strippers. Honey. R. Kelly, P. Diddy, Slow Jam, Spirit, Smooth Tunes. I don't know what happened with Spirit. I have to get in touch with him somehow. I don't know what I got to do. I got to talk to Mr. Terrain and see about what he did, because we were good, and then they just stopped. Height, he just stopped. So there it is. I appreciate you. Thank you all, and I will see you sometime tomorrow. Take care.